context for us, just how important the Chinese market is for the likes of NVIDIA, AMD, and what is the current state of sales when it comes to the nation?
Well, when you think about $7 billion in a quarter alone for NVIDIA, that's the power of the amount that they were shipping over to China. And I think for AMD, you saw the beating that the stock took last week on its earnings because they couldn't give us the intricacies of when they were going to be able to get MI308s back into the market, when we were going to be able to start revenue generation there. Investors care a lot about that. I think the longer term perspective is, well, what does this ultimately mean for breeding competition in China? And what does it also mean for China's own pushback on this? I think you saw the reports coming out from those that follow state media, really trying to say that they're still worried about so-called backdoors, the ability that US seem to be talking about of ultimately tracking where these chips go. China is not like that. That's why they summoned Chen Wang himself to come and explain about whether or not there'll be any information they don't want to be seen taken. I think longer term, China is looking for self-sufficiency. But in the here and now, of course, US wants to see ultimately it owning the tech stack in China as well as in the United States.
But Karen, even listening to you describe how China is dealing with it.
Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and we are live streaming on YouTube, on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and simulcasting on X Spaces. We're going to go over the news today. It's August 11th. I will also do a replay for the ones that couldn't watch during the live show. Please help support the work that I do by making sure that you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Please subscribe to all those channels. All the links are in the description of this video and all my videos to get to those channels. All these videos are for free. Please help support the work by sharing the links, asking your social media to follow me. You can follow me on X and on GETTR. Links are in the description of this video. You can also be contributing through donations. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or Buy Me a Coffee. You can be a paid member to my Patreon channel. Again, I don't put anything behind a paywall. So the ones that are paid members, you are helping support the free content. I tell you how to make some money in the market, how to improve your health, and my perspective on the news and scientific endeavors. So please help support the work by sharing the links, by donating, and better yet, purchasing the products. Now, the international audience that I have, which is, I have quite a few viewers that are international. I apologize, I don't ship internationally. If you'd like to help support my work, you can do so through donations. I have great products on my store. We're going to go over some of those shortly, but before I do that, let's listen a little bit into the business news today. The markets have opened up and the S&P 500 is trading at 6,394. I still have a target of 6,800 to 7,000 by year end, especially when the Federal Reserve lowers rates. It's going to be an accelerant for the S&P 500 for equities. So please help support the work that I do. Pay attention to what I have to say about the market and about how to improve your health, and you will end up helping yourself and your family. Let's go and listen to the news right now.
If you want your businesses to do well, and maybe that's something that Ep9 is learning the hard way at the moment.
Apple, a case study there. Caroline, great context. Really appreciate that. That is Bloomberg Tech co-host Caroline Hyde. You can catch more on BTech at 11 a.m. today. But don't go anywhere, because coming up next, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies surging as more institutions buy into the industry. We'll discuss next. This is Open Interest.
Competitors think I have a 10-person team, but in reality, I'm just one guy with an AI employee. When you're a solo founder, the job titles stack up fast. You're the CEO.
President Trump getting ready to meet with Russia's Vladimir Putin on Friday in Alaska. Join us now. on that story and others. Former Democratic U.S. Senator Heidi Heitkamp, she's now the director of the University of Chicago Institute of Politics and a CNBC contributor. And Mick Mulvaney, former acting White House chief of staff, now acting strategic advisors co-chair. And we'll talk about some of the business stuff too, but we can start with what I did in that intro, Senator. And I'm feeling I don't know, I'm considering both sides of everything lately, which is annoying. It's annoying for me. I don't know whether, Andrew is Langone said has made a lot of progress with me. Maybe you're making progress with me. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking, Joe, that, it has gotten to the point where there's a great story about state-sponsored capitalism, and at the bottom, you're a capitalist, and what you're seeing is not capitalism, right? And so, of course, you're seeing both sides of it.
Okay, I am, but even on this, I understand that Putin is a brutal tyrant that really hasn't made apologies for anything he's done. So inviting him to the U.S. without any concessions could be seen as, not a good thing. But then I immediately think of what Democrats used to say about meeting with Obama and Ahmadinejad back then. You have to talk to these people to try to get where you want to go, to end bloodshed, to end a war. You can't do it through conflict. So I can always think of both sides. What about? So you would have to say this is a positive, but then Democrats just say Trump wants to win a Nobel Prize and he doesn't really care about the bloodshed. He just wants to win a Nobel Peace Prize, which is worthless now, obviously, because Obama got one for nothing. See, I'm going back and forth. I'm like hitting both sides.
You don't even need us anymore. You can do this by yourself.
You need us this morning. You could just debate yourself.
Yeah,
We can do that.
Easy.
We do this now
I
for
know
a couple of years.
doing that. God, nice. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I think talking is always right, but preconditions are absolutely critical. And the fact that the president of Ukraine may not be there, Zelensky, tells you something about, is this an opening salvo? But what troubled me the most is how Russia is celebrating this meeting as a major win for Putin. And so I think it's always good to talk, but there has to be preconditions, and we don't see those preconditions in this dialogue.
That is true, Mick. It's annoying because we do, we try to figure out how to feel in this country by looking at how the other country, like even I did that when France and other EU countries were mad about that deal. I was like, wow, I love it. Must be a great deal that we got with the EU on trade, because they were whining so much about it. So in this case, Russia is celebrating. Does that mean that we're getting taken advantage of?
No, I think there's something that's missing here, which is Trump wanted to have a meeting as quickly as possible. He wanted to have a meeting for a long time. My guess is, and it's an educated guess, Alaska was simply the easiest place to meet on short notice. It's really, really hard to move the president. It's especially hard to move the president overseas. It would have taken weeks probably to set up meetings in, say, Helsinki or Rome or something like that. We could set it up. My guess it's probably going to be at a military base in Alaska. It's just the simplest logistic place to do the meeting. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I am interested that Zelensky's not going to be there. I think that's probably a message to Zelensky and the Europeans as much as anybody else, which is, look, Trump has said it before. They don't have the cards. If the U.S., Russia, and the EU want this war to stop, and the price for the war stopping is Crimea becomes officially part of Russia, the war is going to stop, and Crimea is going to officially be part of Russia. Ukraine simply doesn't have the cards, as Trump says, to participate as a full member. They're relying too heavily on the U.S. and the EU for their own defense here, which is why they as of right now, they don't have a seat at the table.
Imagine being able to build anything, for any reason, in any style, at any scale, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform made for anyone with an idea.
Now my understanding of base 44, it's for code. So when they say build anything, That's websites, that's apps. But can it really build a car? No. Can it build a house? No. Can it build a ship? No. Build anything? See, the reason why I'm saying this is that the last, I want to say the last 20 years, especially the ones that have been coming out of college, they don't understand the concept of the physical. They only understand, and I'm broad brushing this, they understand the digital. But it's the physical that matters, not so much the digital. Now, some people, oh, we live in a digital world. Yeah, but you still need a house. You still need to eat food. You still need to drive in your car. You still need transportation. You still need physical things. You could live your life without a digital life. You can't live without the physical. And this goes back to the whole idea. What's more important, a kinetic war or an info war? And I say you can't win in an info war. You can win in a kinetic war. And there's the lessons learned. There's some deep lessons to learn with what I'm saying. You gotta build shit. You gotta build stuff that's in the physical. And don't be hoodwinked by a bunch of coders that are losing their jobs and they decide to create a company to write code for people that aren't coders. Well, that'll make businesses more productive. It'll make individuals more productive. You'll have more apps that are more unique to your particular situation at a much lower cost. Faster. The quality control may or may not be there, who knows? But that's the digital world. That's not the physical world. You can't just ask ChatGPT, please make me something, right? You know, steak and eggs, a house, a car. It doesn't happen like that. So you can't build anything. You can build stuff in the digital. So it's important to have a strong foundation of the material. The understanding that being a keyboard warrior isn't going to win. Having kinetic power wins.
In addition to that, you want to, I'll start with you on capitalism, because I love it now. You and all your socialist friends, the minute you get a chance to throw capitalism in a capitalist face, you do it. So now you like capitalism and this stuff that Trump's doing. Yeah, so now you like it. Now you like it all. Now you're from
love capitalism. I always love capitalism.
Oh, your friends on the coast do not. Your friends on the coast do not. Elizabeth Warren and others do not.
Well, let me tell you what Trump is doing. There's this article about state-sponsored capitalism. It's fascinating because it really puts a ribbon around everything that's going on. And if you think that the lesson Democrats are learning is that we need to return to some semblance of normal, the lesson they're learning is they haven't been brazen enough. And so this is going to be a race to the bottom if we get a president who is on the left side. I could see them saying, look, you want to sell coffee? We're going to tariff coffee at 150% or 100%. And then you are going to have to unionize. And so this is not a good thing. And it's never been a good thing. And I have to tell you, on tariffs, I was one of the few people who said Congress needs to claw back that authority and work really hard to try and do it. But it's going to be really hard now, given that Trump has, I think, really extended the look of how you exercise executive power.
Is there anything to that, Nick? I mean, in terms of industrial policy, or this is the latest thing with NVIDIA and AMD, and we've seen other companies sort of to go to the White House, and it's sort of the president's demanding some concessions. People,
a lot of Republicans. There's a lot of Republicans, myself included, who don't like it. Industrial policy is not supposed to be a conservative thing. The Defense Department taking multi-$100-million investments in rare earth minerals companies is not supposed to be a Republican conservative thing. Sovereign wealth funds are not supposed to be Republican conservative things, but that's because the party is no longer conservative. The party is populist. And Heidi's exactly right. The risk here that you run is that the populist wing of the Democrat Party is learning lessons from the populist wing of the Republican Party. And the message they're taking away from it is they're just not doing enough. She's absolutely right. I mean, if Trump can spend $400 million investing in rare earths, why can't the Defense Department invest $3 trillion in solar panels? I mean, that's where this is going. It is going down the wrong road.
But Mick, here's a political question.
We're worried about it as well.
Right now, our president has an extraordinary amount of power, as you know so very well.
Okay.
You may not like what you're seeing for whatever reason. And by the way, there may be people in the House and the Senate who don't like what they're seeing that are on the Republican side, but none of them are raising their hands.
Yeah, but that's because
Yes, he's using a Gorilla pillow. How can you tell? Have you heard about Gorilla Ergo? It's the cutting edge ergonomic pillow that people actually look forward to laying their heads on.
yeah, but that's because the energy in both parties, Andrew, is in the populist wing. That's the populist Democrats. You see it in New York. It's the populist Republicans. You see it in Washington, D.C. right now. It's different. The parties are changing. And there is no real place right now for the conservative. There's no place right now for the sort of the moderate Democrat that Heidi used to be. So, or probably still is. I'm sorry, Heidi. Yeah, that's where the energy is right now in both parties. And it does create new challenges for both of them.
Nick, to the
Well,
end.
every-
Oh, go ahead, Heidi. Yeah.
I was gonna say, with everything that the president does, this NVIDIA taking 15%, all of that just basically speaks to a pattern of use of executive power that is going to be hard to roll back unless people in Congress, you know what, grow something. And they aren't looking like they're gonna do.
But tariffs were around way before Trump. Tariffs was a revenue source over 100 years ago. Tariffs brought in income, so taxes wouldn't go up. And so debt wouldn't be issued. Now, this is what the Democrats are saying that's false, all right? What the Democrats are saying that's false is that all of the tariffs are going to be absorbed by the consumer. That's totally untrue. It's about, on average, a third. So if tariffs go up 10%, your cost for that good is going to go up about 3.3%. I already did the calculations. Most of the economists agree. Guess what? If you buy a laptop that's foreign made and it's going to be slapped with a tariff, a $1,500 laptop is most likely going to cost you $1,625. But people would say, well, wait a minute, isn't it really $1,825 or $75? No, because 1/3 of it is going to be absorbed by the manufacturer in the country that's of origin. Another third of it is going to be absorbed by the company that is actually selling the product to the end consumer. And then the consumer is going to take 1/3 of the higher cost. In some cases, you're going to have no increase in the sticker price. In other cases, you'll be absorbing a little bit more than a third. But even at these high tariff rates of 35%, 1/3 of 35% is not that much. And what do you buy that's a high-end item? Maybe a car, maybe electronics, that's like a computer that's over $1,000, or maybe an appliance for your home. But most items that you buy, that is just, staples kind of stuff, things that you need on a regular basis, you're not going to see a major increase. So tariffs are going to bring in revenue, and in the tune of about $50 billion a month. Instead of issuing $50 billion more of debt that you will pay in future years, the coupon payment of that debt for 10 years or whatever, it will cost you more to issue $50 billion of debt, and your part of that $50 billion and paying it over a 10-year period than to absorb 1/3 of a 35% increase in tariffs. There's $50 billion coming in per month. Well, wait a minute. If that $50 billion wasn't coming in, maybe your taxes would have to go up. Would you rather have the choice of buying a product and deciding not to buy it because of the cost and not being taxed, or having to buy, making the decision to buy a product that doesn't have a high tariff and you are taxed? Which way do you want to go? Actually, if you game theory this whole thing out, the better option for the consumer is tariffs, not taxes, not issuing debt. Not only that, the extra benefit is that it brings back the economic clustering. It's telling these corporations, you need to come back. Now, why are the corporations so upset if they think that they're going to pass on the whole tariff increase to the consumer? Why would they care? No, because remember that 2/3? 2/3 are being absorbed by either the manufacturer or the actual end retailer or business that's going to be selling that good to the end user. Like Walmart, for example, Walmart. So Walmart has suppliers. Some of the suppliers are going to be absorbing their costs. Walmart will absorb some of it, and Walmart will pass some of it to the consumer. It's approximately 1/3. So Walmart and its supply chain is absorbing 2/3 of the tariff. That's why you hear this in the news, that tariffs are bad and it's going to, cause inflation. It's going to be causing a problem. Because they know their margins are going to shrink. And because of competition, they can't really raise the price and pass it on to the consumer 100%. So would you rather have higher taxes? Would you rather have more debt issuance that's going to cost you more than absorbing the 1/3 tariff? Sit and really think about it. And so when you have the Democratic Party saying the consumers are going to fail on this, and the consumers are going to be hurt the most, and all that, no, they're not. The ones that are going to be hurt the most are actually the corporations that have the high margin because they're playing in a labor arbitrage. Now, if we're going to try to bring back, if we're using tariffs to bring back economic clustering, which is a good idea in my mind, that is a strong hit to those manufacturers to tell them, bring it back to the United States, because their supply chain and themselves are absorbing 2/3 of the tariff. Now, if we didn't have that tariff and we just said, well, we'll give you a tax incentive to come back to the state, that tax incentive isn't good enough because they have lawyers that are already playing games with their taxes, and they're paying a low rate anyway. So it's not a big change for them. And because of the economic clustering in another country that's already established, there's some companies that'll come back because of some sort of tax incentive. But it's not that strong of a impetus compared to tariffs. Now, with debt issuance, there's no reason for the companies to come back to the United States. So out of the 3 different levers, tariffs, debt issuance, or taxes, what if your policy is to bring back manufacturing, which lever would you pull? The taxes lever? Would you pull the debt issuance lever, or would you pull the tariff lever? And now you understand that if you pay attention and you play this whole game theory out, tariffs are the best option, the most effective option.
One way or the other, and the Democratic base now is saying, look, you've got to fight fire with fire.
But Heidi, the Democrats don't want to roll it back. I mean, you and I were together in the House of Representatives for the State of the Union, where Barack Obama said, "Look, if Congress doesn't act, I have a pen and a phone, and he got a standing ovation from the Republican elected
Yeah,
officials.
that's, Heidi, the Democrats invented this, and it's even worse because in the last administration, there were all kinds of stuff that Biden did. Unfortunately, it was somebody, probably not him, it was some auto pen guy, it was like Zinks or Zinks or whatever his name is, it was doing it, so.
The whataboutism, it doesn't even.
You always say that.
No
It's not hypocrisy, it's not
way.
hypocrisy,
Well,
it's whataboutism. So you can do whatever you want, slash and burn for 4 years under Biden, and then if a Republican brings, go ahead, Nick.
Whataboutism is just a comparison that you don't like, that's all it is.
Yeah, well, what about it is a comparison that you don't like that hits home, especially with what we're talking about.
Let me tell you, that this administration on executive power is on steroids. And that wasn't true over the last 4
The
years.
court system's on steroids, stopping every single executive.
Well,
Anyway.
Joe, I mean, come on. I mean, you know,
You've seen the numbers, right? You've seen the numbers for how many compared to previous administrations that have these.
Well, how do you feel, Joe, how do you feel about that tariff action in the DC Circuit Court? And you know, this is being led by Republicans, by conservative organizations who think this has gone too far. There's a lot
They'll
of
just find another way.
People like Nick who understand that this is a historic moment. And
Well, like it's wait. One, I'm tired of everyone yelling at each other, but when you have Republicans that are saying maybe tariffs have gone too far, we need to use the principle, the 5 whys. Why are they saying that? And I bet that you get down to the root cause of that perspective. Those Republicans have lobbying groups that are supporting their campaigns and supporting the Republican Party that are going to lose a lot of money if they move manufacturing back to the United States. You know why? Because it gets back to the whole idea that I just said. 2/3 are being absorbed by the corporations, not by the consumer. And you're getting rid of their labor arbitrage. On top of certain corporations, certain CEOs within those corporations are tied to a group around the world that is promoting globalization and a de-industrialization of the United States. That's a fact. You don't believe me? What do you think the Bilderberg group is? It's all about de-industrializing the United States. So it's time for America first. America's back, and America's going to make stuff. And the best way to do it is to put pressure on these individuals that are playing labor arbitrage for the last 35 years and shipping American jobs away. Now you got to put pressure on them. But because they have a powerful lobbying group on K Street, they're going to be getting on the phone to their representative in the Republican Party saying, you know, this is Mr. Walmart, or this is GM. Senator, we can't have this tariff anymore because it's costing us too much money. For the last 35 years, we needed labor arbitrage in China, in Canada, and in Mexico. So, Representative, make sure you shut down no tariffs. Now, the representative should be saying, I represent the state of XYZ, and they need to have jobs. And you've been shipping their jobs for the last 35 fucking years, and you've been making a ton of money, and you got a major executive package. So all you really care about is your taxes, or not your tax. All you care about is your executive compensation and your increase in stock. Listen here, Senator and Representative, we own you. No, you don't. It's we the people. Listen here, Senator. Big business owns Congress. That's the fucking problem that we got in Washington, D.C. We have representatives that are on the take.
To roll this back.
the president is granted wide powers for trade. If it does go south in the Supreme Court on this the way they're doing it now, they're going to be able to do it another way. He's allowed to do a lot of those things for trade, I think, or at least that would be the
because
bottom.
Congress has ceded that authority in various statutes by giving them emergency authority.
You're waiting for Congress to allow Trump to take out those Iranian nuclear sites at this point, huh? It's not the way it works.
I mean, do I think Congress is fleckless and ineffective and ridiculous? Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely,
okay.
I think that's true.
Right, because the Republicans are in charge.
There's an old Spanish proverb.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the nattokinase. Nattokinase is fibrinolytic. It's going to break up clots. It's also going to help with your lipid profile. It's going to help to bring down LDL levels, increase your HDL levels. When you improve your lipid profile, you have less plaque buildup. When you have less plaque buildup, you have better vascular health. Olive leaf extract, dual purpose product. It helps to boost up your immune system because it brings down inflammation, but it also helps with the vascular system. So by bringing down inflammation at the vascular level, you're reducing stress at the vascular level, reducing oxidation of LDL. And when you improve your lipid profile by taking olive leaf extract, you're reducing plaque formation because you're helping to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. This is a dual purpose product. It's very powerful. Take it. It's going to help with your immune system and your vascular system. Stacks really well with nattokinase. So this is a great stack. Go to my store and use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. A lot of people have brain fog. And guess what? In 5 years or earlier, you're going to start seeing a lot of people that are 40 years of age or older getting early onset of dementia. A big reason, not the only reason, but a big reason is what we went through in 2020. Now, I have a video out there that explains the 3 different cohorts that are affected because of the 2020 crisis and how it's going to affect the brain and what the percentages are. But many people are going to have memory loss, and many people are going to have motor coordination issues, and people are already starting to see it. And in addition, individuals that have long symptoms from the crisis, I'm trying to parse my words so I don't get a strike, but they have long symptoms of the crisis. You know what I'm talking about. There is a study out there that actually shows that certain areas of your brainstem actually shrink. And that's part of the reason why their sympathetic nervous system is overactivated and having issues with coordination, with kinematic coordination. So it's happening already. You better pay attention to me. You need to protect your neurons. Just like I've been saying, you need to protect your immune system. And I have 1,000 videos out there about why. You have to protect your neurons, just as important, because of the crisis of 2020. All right? In 5 years or earlier, you're going to see this happen. Now, what do you need to do? You need to improve your diet, make sure you drink filtered water, stay away from processed foods, stay away from sugary substances. You want to improve your vascular system. You know, people would say, why do you need to improve your vascular system? Because, you're trying to protect your brain. You need good blood flow to have the microenvironment to maintain neural health. That's why. So vascular health is super important. So that means that you have to improve that vascular fitness. Do cardio, also do resistance training, do balancing exercises, and do stretching. Why? Because all those modalities are going to help with those neurons. You're going to be creating a microenvironment, and you're also activating those nerves. And when you're activating those nerves, you're strengthening those connections. And when you're helping with your kinematics, you're strengthening those connections that are in the cerebellum. Super important. I cannot tell you any more about how important it is to listen to me on this. All right? In 5 years, a big part of American society is going to have neurological problems. Fact. Just like I said a few years ago that there was going to be a major uptick in cancers. Well, it behooves you to listen. All right? Because I'm the most accurate on this. So just pay attention. Now, by doing these exercises, you're going to be able to stimulate those neurons. All right? And you're going to strengthen them. Now, there's supplements and there is detoxification ways to reduce stress and to maintain healthy neurons by making sure that the inflammation is down. If you have high inflammation that is chronic, guess what? Your myelin sheath starts to erode. When you have a myelin sheath that erodes, guess what? Your nerves don't work as well. All right. So it's really important to keep inflammation down. And it's also important to create a microenvironment where you're getting those dendritic connections, that positive neuroplasticity. Because if they start to recede, then the memory starts to fade. You start to think slower. You have gait issues. You have motor coordination issues. You start having hearing problems. You start having eyesight issues. So with that, what should you be taking? Lots of different supplements that I have help with neurons. Now, with people that have brain fog, it's important to take clarity factor. Now, clarity factor is going to get rid of that brain fog, allow for that microenvironment and get that positive neuroplasticity, get those dendritic connections over time, and you're going to be thinking faster. You're going to have that clarity, and it's going to support your memory. But it's also very important to do the holistic approach, and that is proper diet, proper exercise, proper sleep. If you are sleep deprived chronically, you're increasing your chances of early onset of dementia, especially in the post-crisis of 2020. So clarity factor, super important. Get it. You've been warned. All right. Also, it's important to detoxify your body. And I have different products that will help to detoxify your body. I have deodorants that are used as a deodorant, but also help to detoxify your body. And by detoxifying your body, you're bringing down that inflammation and you're helping your body to get in homeostasis. Peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, deodorant, and also citrus. They're for males and females. It's made from essential oils from the Himalayas, extremely high quality deodorants. No aluminum, no baking soda, all natural. It's dual purpose. Use it as a deodorant so you don't smell, but it also helps to detoxify your body. So if you use all these different modalities to detoxify your body, you're actually going to get healthier faster. So please go to my store and get the deodorants. Now, since we're talking about detoxification, zeolite, super important. Take this every day. Now, what you should do is make sure your water's filtered. Drink the filtered water. Make sure that you stay away from processed foods because there's a lot of garbage in that processed food. Stay away from plastic containers, especially if they're in the microwave, because you don't want those microplastics. There's been a study that shows that was done in Europe that shows that microplastics and nanoplastics accumulate in the brain. And guess what? When you have a higher concentration of micro and nanoplastics in the brain, early onset of dementia, not only that, they accumulate in your kidney and your liver, in your heart. Do you think that those organs are going to perform better? No. Stay away from plastic foods. Stay away from, plastic containers and spoons and forks and the lining and paper cups. All this stuff has plastic in it. And if you're ingesting it constantly all day long, let's say that you're drinking these energy drinks, right? In these cans. These cans have a lining in it that's actually a plastic. Well, guess what? All those Monster energy drinks that you're drinking microplastics. All right, so you're going to improve your food intake, filter your water, make sure that your environment in your house is clean. What I mean by that is this paints in the garage or in the basement, you need to get rid of them or put them in double layer containers. Like in container store, you can put, let's say, paint in a container, have it sealed with the lid, and then have have that container in another container. And that way you're preventing the degassing. Because you'd be surprised that if you did an analysis of your air quality in your house, that cleaning agents, paints, these sorts of things, detergents, they get into your environment in your house, either on a surface or in the air, and you're exposed to them. If you're exposed to them too frequently, it's going to disrupt your endocrine system. Have you noticed all these commercials where they're showing Black people with with their air freshener in their car or in their house? Those are endocrine disruption chemicals. Oh, it smells so good. Well, why does your house stink? Get to the root cause. You don't hide the stink with an air freshener. You clean your house so it doesn't stink. It's really simple. Or your car, right? Okay, so the point here is to stay away from these kinds of things. Perfumes, endocrine disruption, endocrine disrupting chemicals, and immune disrupting chemicals. Stay away from them. Okay, now zeolite. When you take zeolite, you take 3 small drops underneath your tongue and drink the filtered water. Do that every day. And what that's going to do is it's going to bind to the heavy metals, the toxins and the chemicals, including forever chemicals, and it'll allow for you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. But you got to do this regularly because you're exposed to a lot of toxins. Now, some people prefer to do like a heavier detox once or twice a year. Now, to do that, you take 10 small drops underneath your tongue, small drops, drink the filtered water, do that every day until the bottle's done, do that once or twice a year. I prefer to do the maintenance throughout the year, every day. But it's really important that you clean your environment because if you reduce your exposure and you cleanse your body, you get the max benefit. If you just cleanse your body, you're still being exposed to these disrupting chemicals. If you just clean your environment and don't detox your body, you still have the garbage in your body. So pay attention to what I'm saying here. So take the zeolite, use discount 5, get $5 off any order. You spend $100 or more, you get a free gift. Listen to me and I'll help you out. You don't listen, you don't take charge of your own health, don't be surprised in 4 or 5 years you have Swiss cheese brain. It's your own damn fault if you don't take charge of your own health.
We're just waiting for President Trump. So when he emerges, we will bring that to you live. But right now, let's get a little bit of a reset on these markets. We'll go with Charlie Pell in the Bloomberg Business Fund.
Thank you very much, Paul. So the little change right now on the S&P 500 index. Yes, so the record of 1.6390 where we stand. That is a gain of under 0.1%. Dow Industrials, though, turning lower since our last update, down 99 now for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, a decline of 0.2%, while NASDAQ is up 0.1%. This Bloomberg Business Flash is brought to you by Oracle. Attention, growing businesses. Oracle is offering to cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. For new U.S. customers with minimum financial commitment, see if your company qualifies at oracle.com/Bloomberg. The 10-year, 4.27%, but the 2-year, 3.76%. Gold down 1.3%, $33.55 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude flat on the day, $63.88 a barrel. Bitcoin now at 119,912 for Bitcoin. That is a gain of 1.3%. Just getting word from AMD, it is confirming it has received China AI chip export licenses. AMD shares, Advanced Micro Devices up 2.7%. NVIDIA right now higher by 0.5%. And Micron Technology has raised its fiscal fourth quarter revenue, earnings, gross margin, and operating expense outlook, citing, quote, improved pricing, particularly in a key memory product category. Right now, we got Micron up by 5%. So recapping, the Dow lower, S&P little changed, up by 3 points. For on-demand news, 24 hours a day, subscribe to Bloomberg News now, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Charlie Pelleton. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie Pell, thank you so much. We appreciate that. As always, Lisa Mateo, Paul Sweeney, we're live here in our Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, and we're streaming live on YouTube as well. We are awaiting President Trump. He is scheduled to hold a press conference on crime in the District of Columbia specifically, and that's going to come from the White House press briefing room. And it's scheduled for 10 a.m. Wall Street time. I guess when you're president, you got to do it whenever you want. So we, along with the assembled press corps in the press room, we will await President Trump. We will bring those comments to you live when he emerges. Let's talk about these markets. I'm just looking at the S&P 500 and the earnings performance for this quarter here. You know, up 11.3%. That's pretty darn good. But let's remember, folks, I think companies took down their estimates and analysts took down their estimates pretty significantly once we saw the beginning of the tariff situation back there in April. So it's kind of setting expectations low and then exceeding them. I don't know. Carol Schleich, she does this stuff for a living, Chief Investment Officer, BMO Family Office. Carol, how are you viewing earnings? Again, the headline is earnings grew kind of double digits, but expectations were kind of low here. What do you make of it?
Well, expectations were low, and we've been calling for this ever since the first quarter when we saw companies pulling guidance or bringing it down or giving us multiple scenarios to deal with. I mean, all of that was really trying to do what company management should be doing, is figuring out how to adapt and dodge and weave. And they've done a really good job of it so far, because as we all know, the headlines change minute by minute, and especially over the weekend. And so there's lots of different stuff for them to keep track of. And companies, by and large, are doing what they can. Now that we've got a bit more clarity, at least to frameworks and the way things are going to go and the way deals are being cut, and the One Big Beautiful Bill Act being passed, companies have more ability to be able to guide both investors, figure out what they're going to do with tariffs, as well as figure out what they're going to do with policy. So it does tee up a stronger second half, hopefully.
And companies also giving a lot for AI spend. I noticed that's one of the themes that you say you talked about. What surprised you the most about how these companies are spending in AI?
I think the interesting thing is to remember, because there's a lot of people that are really nervous here, especially long-term clients and long-term investors who lived through the dot-com bubble. And it's really important to remember that these companies are self-financing. I think that the thing that's really interesting, one of the things I want to probe into more deeply in the piece I write for this week, is that the big are getting bigger and they're gobbling up a lot of the small companies. So it's tougher to be a small company unless you're the big, if you will, in terms of prepping yourself to be bought by one of the big companies. So watching those big companies spend the way they are, sooner or later, they have to continue to show in more vehement fashion, if you will, that they're profiting from all this. Some of them are showing indications of that, how they're working it in. But the U.S. in general is going to benefit once we get that infrastructure up and we all have access to it.
Carol, we're having the markets hit seemingly daily all-time highs here. How concerned are you about valuation here?
Well, the interesting thing is it's also important to remember that valuation is a poor timing tool. You know, that stocks, industries, markets can stay overvalued or undervalued for significant lengths of time. And the spending that's happening and the earnings that are coming through from it is being self-financed so far. So that's an important thing to watch. And markets are going to be very headline driven because of the fact that valuations are full. They're not necessarily egregious. And it is important to remember too that you've got S&P 500 in aggregate margins close to all-time highs as well. And so balance sheets are in good shape as of yet. We've seen some companies start to intimate, if you will, that they'll be accessing credit markets to help support that in a lower rate environment. But investors are also looking at the fact that whether it's September or later in the year, you've got a Fed whose likely next move is down 25 to 50 basis points.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with economic data too. Big reports coming out this week. CPI tomorrow, PPI Thursday. We even have retail sales Friday. We were just talking about our Michael McKee with this. What are your expectations, and how do you think the markets are going to react?
It's tough to put an expectation out there. You know, we all thought we had a labor market in pretty good balance, and turns out it was a little more fragile than we even thought. And so watching those CPI and PPI, and that could definitely introduce some volatility into the markets. We would expect that you're going to see less of it translate through to CPI because companies know consumers are really, really exhausted from the price levels that they've been paying for the last 5 years. Inflation aside, they're exhausted by the price levels. The PPI, it'll be really interesting to parse through that and see who's already eating it, because many of them told us they laid out the amount that they're already paying in tariffs, and that was before the final numbers are set.
We're seeing a lot of companies, most recently Apple, say they're going to increase their investments in manufacturing in the United States. A lot of people say you need to get on this infrastructure bandwagon. How do you guys think about that?
We like the infrastructure plan, have for a very long time. We actually were early on it for different reasons under the Biden administration, when you had various bills and acts passed to support that. But if you've driven any of these northwestern or northern cities in the summer, it's definitely this season of construction everywhere. And there's a lot of roads, bridges, things going on. And there's obviously, with all the data centers we're putting up, you can't put them up in a vacuum. You have to hook them to a grid or create something local that's going to feed those data centers. And so that activity is not likely to cease. And when you actually parse out and look at the charts, in that the data center construction has continued, the other private sector spending on manufacturing and infrastructure leveled off, waiting for some of this clarity. And now we've gotten more clarity, particularly from the one big beautiful bill, which added some benefits for domestic construction.
All right, so infrastructure, yeah. So what are you less fond of?
Probably less fond of some of the consumer staples, because I think, like they have done in prior, it's tough for them to be able to pass price increases on, and yet the cost of goods is going up, whether it's cocoa or a lot of those companies, from things that aren't tariff related to all of the tariff related inputs, even the packaging that they're putting in. So it's tough for the consumer staples companies, and it can be kind of tricky for some of the others. And one of the things we're keeping an eye on is some of these services companies, because you're seeing tangential blowback, if you will, in services spending. That's because if you're trying to preserve margins, you're going to cut back a lot of any area you view as discretionary, and that tends to be some of the services and consulting and things like that that come through for companies.
Hey, Carol, just from a short-term trading perspective, August, September, maybe even October tend to be kind of volatile months for the market. Do you worry about that at all?
Well, I think the important thing to remember is our lens is taxable individuals and those individuals in the highest tax brackets. So yes, we give them heads up that these are notoriously volatile months, August in particular, because it tends to be really light volume. So a random headline can push the markets around, particularly when they come on Fridays.
So if they're private wealth, they probably have a lot of cash on hand. So if it's volatile, they're just going to buy in and buy more to get the mean reversion.
And about a 30% kind of tax hit all in, and then they have to be right about getting out and getting back in. And many of our clients have been with us for such a long period of time that they see through that. They're willing to understand that volatility is there and look through it, as long as the fundamental underpinnings are there. And we just have finished up a really solid earnings season. So far so good on the fundamentals being there.
Hey, Carol, so you talked about earnings season winding down, but there's still a few more big names for earnings. Who are we going to be keeping an eye on next? I mean, I think NVIDIA is at the end of the month.
Yeah, obviously in NVIDIA, and just there's a few major names that give us ideas, but we do have the bulk of them in, because we have close to 90% of them in as of late last week. I was running the numbers on, I think, Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, and the numbers have surprised. The nice surprise has been on both the revenue and the earnings line, and watching that continue. And now we'll be watching, obviously, because they report a month off, all the retailers will start to come, and there'll be a lot of
Carol, President Trump is coming to the podium, so we're going to say goodbye to you. Carol Schleck, Chief Investment Officer of BMO Capital Markets. Go down to Washington, D.C., President Donald Trump speaking.
This is really a lot of people, most I've ever seen in this room. And we're here for a very serious purpose, Something's out of control, but we're going to put it in control very quickly, like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in DC, and we're gonna take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the DC Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough. And they know what's happening, and they've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, DC, and they're gonna be allowed to do their job properly. And you people are victims of it too. You know, you're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get mugged and raped and shot and killed. And you all know people and friends of yours that happened. And so you can be anything you want, but you want to have safety in the streets. You want to be able to leave your apartment or your house where you live and feel safe and go into a store to buy a newspaper or buy something. And you don't have that now. The murder rate in Washington today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia, Mexico City, some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth, much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past 5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. Just like we did on our southern border. Nobody comes to our southern border anymore. 3 months in a row, we had zero.
And the reason why we had a porous border, and because we have the Washington DC is a hellhole, is because of the Democrats and their liberal policies and a lack of law and order. It goes back to those 3 pillars that I was saying before: God, country, and family. So DC is a shithole. New York is a shithole. Chicago is a shithole. Boston is a shithole. LA, a shithole. San Francisco, a shithole.
Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru, all double and triple what they are. So do you want to live in places like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think the people in this room, if you wrote correctly, you'd see, look at the kind of numbers we have. DC, 41 per 100,000, number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. That where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had a recent indication. There was a story about a man who was just left. He quit because he was asked to do phony numbers on crime. And we're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. But he was asked by the city, I guess, we don't want to show the real numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down. And under Biden, it was a disaster. And nobody did anything about it. We're going to do things about it like you wouldn't believe. Every American has a constitutional right to be able to access and petition their government in safety, and countless federal officials and employees likewise have the right to carry out their jobs in peace without being shot. As you know, I lost a very good person a while ago, was shot waiting for his wife. He was in the car. They robbed this car. They shot him. They killed him like it was nothing to it. She was walking to the car. It's a horror show. This issue directly impacts the functioning of the federal government and is a threat to America. Really, it's a threat to our country. We have other cities also that are bad. very bad. You look at Chicago, how bad it is. You look at Los Angeles, how bad it is. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not gonna let it happen. We're not gonna lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with DC, and we're gonna clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say. Days ago, a former member of the Doge staff was savagely beaten by a band of roving thugs after defending a young woman from an attempted carjacking. He was left dripping in blood. He thought he was dead with a broken nose and concussion. Can't believe that he's alive. He can't believe it. In June, a 21-year-old congressional intern was tragically killed after being hit by a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting. A former Trump administration official named Mike Gill, fantastic person, was murdered last year in cold blood in a carjacking blocks away from the White House. We all know him. Great person. Waiting for his wife as she was walking to the car. The Democrat congressman was also carjacked at gunpoint not far from the Capitol. And in 2023, an aide to Senator Rand Paul was stabbed in the chest and head by a demented lunatic as he walked down the street, just absolutely for no reason. Horrifically, last July 4th weekend, a 3-year-old girl was shot in the head and killed while sitting in a car near the Capitol. It's becoming a situation of complete and total lawlessness. And we're getting rid of the slums too. We have slums here. We're getting rid of them. I know it's not politically correct. You'll say, oh, so terrible. No, we're getting rid of the slums where they live. Caravans of mass youth rampage through city streets at all times of the day. There are ATVs, motorbikes. They travel pretty well. Entire neighborhoods are now under emergency curfews. Just this past weekend, gunfire went through, and you saw that the Navy Yard. I saw it this morning. They saw that they fought back against. Well, see, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. But they fought back against law enforcement last night, and they're not going to be fighting back long, because I've instructed them and told them whatever happens, they love to spit in the face of the police as the police are standing up there in uniform. They're standing and they're screaming at them an inch away from their face. And then they start spitting in their face. And I said, you tell them, you spit and we hit. And they get hit real hard. It's a disgusting thing. I've watched that for years, 3-4 years. I've watched them. The police are standing and they're told, don't do anything under any such of this. And you can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there and people are spitting in their face and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want. This dire public safety crisis stems directly from the abject failures of the city's local leadership. The radical left city council adopted no cash bail. By the way, every place in the country where you have no cash bail is a disaster. That's what started the problem in New York, and they don't change it. They don't want to change it. That's what started it in Chicago. I mean, bad politicians started it, bad leadership started it, but that was the one thing that's central: no cash bail. Somebody murders somebody and they're out on no cash bail before the day is out. Now, we're going to end that in Chicago. We're going to change the statute. I spoke with Pam and Todd and everybody. We're going to change the statute, and I'm going to have to get the Republicans to vote because the Democrats are weak on crime, totally weak on crime. They don't know why. They want to stop because they get mugged too. But we're going to change no cash bail. We're going to change the statute and get rid of some of the other things. And we'll count on the Republicans in Congress and Senate to vote. We have the majority, so we'll vote. We don't have a big majority, but we've gotten everything, including the great, big, beautiful bill. Got that.
I'm going to switch to live now. Hopefully the audio is better.
They want to stop because they get mugged too. But we're gonna change, no cash bail, we're gonna change the statute and get rid of some of the other things. And we'll count on the Republicans in Congress and Senate to vote. We have the majority, so we'll vote. We don't have a big majority, but we've gotten everything, including the great, big, beautiful bill. Got that done, and that's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to people in this country. They're starting to figure it out, how good it is. Biggest tax cut in history. So many things. But we'll be able to get that done. So Todd, if you and Pam can draw up things working with the people, I'll get it passed. We'll get it passed with the Republicans. Probably won't get it. Think of this. Probably won't get one Democrat vote because they have no idea what they're doing. That's why they want men playing in women's sports. That's why they want transgender for everybody transgender. And they just got walloped in an election in a landslide, and they haven't changed one thing. I saw the other day the certain gentleman who was very well-known politician, Democrat, was fighting like hell that men should be allowed to play in women's sport. They just don't get it. They said it's an 80-20 issue, and I think it's a 97-3 issue. And I don't know who the three are. I've never heard anybody nobody's ever come up to me, sir, you have to let men play in women's sports. You have to do it, sir. Nobody's ever approached me. I don't know where this issue even comes from. Never seen anything like it. But they turned our nation's capital into a sanctuary jurisdiction. That's the other thing. We have to get rid of sanctuary cities as quickly as possible. We're going to do it too. We have to. Because it's sanctuary for criminals. Releasing illegal alien gang members onto the streets in 2022, nearly 70% of criminals arrested in Washington went unprosecuted. That's not going to happen with the group we have standing aside and standing behind me. And at the Metropolitan Police Department, it's now reached a small number relatively compared to what it was, but it's thousands of people. You know, we have thousands of police. I was told today, sir, they want more police. I heard a number 3,500 police. That's a lot of police. 3,500. I thought they were going to say, we only have 30 policemen or women. He said, we have 3,500. We need more. You don't need more. That's so many. I never heard. That's like an army. How can you need more than 3,000? It just happened 2 minutes ago. Sir, they've requested more police. Oh, what do they have? About 3,500. I said, 3,500? This is not a big area. It's ridiculous. What you need is rules and regulations, and you need the right people to implement them. And we have the right people here, that I can tell you. Look at the border. Biden said there's nothing you can do. Kamala was the border czar. She never called one of the Border Patrol agents who were great. ICE is great. Never spoke to anybody. Never went there. But she was the border czar. And everybody said it was impossible to fix. I fixed it in 3 months. No, really. I fixed it the first week, but really fixed it over the last couple of months. And I mean, literally to a point where, as I said, 0 illegals entering our country in the last 90 days. Pretty amazing. It's time for dramatic action. We're going to do the same thing over here. It's going to be a very safe city very soon. We're not looking at this take years, because a lot of people die in years. And we've got incredible people in this country, except we have to allow them to do their job. And that we will deliver like nobody's ever delivered before. I actually think it's easy. You know, if you're competent, it's easy. If you're incompetent, it's impossible. But I'm very competent. Last week, my administration surged 500 federal agents into the district, including from the FBI, ATF, DEA, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Secret Service, and the Department of Homeland Security. You know, a lot of nations, they don't have anything like that. They got some police, and they're rough police. They don't have DEA, ATF, FBI, Park Police, U.S. Marshal Service, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security. They got some police, but they're rough police, and they do their job. They don't have crime. We're not going to have crime either. They made dozens of arrests And that's what starts to happen. Again, cashless bail. Watch what we do with that. Today, we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital was, with graffiti all over the walls. It's another part of it, by the way, because we're talking about safety, but we're also talking about beautification. We have the most beautiful, potentially, capital in the world. We always had. But people come from Iowa, they come from Indiana, they come and then they get mugged. Not going to happen. Keep coming, because by the time you get your trip set, it's going to be safe again, and it's going to be clean very quickly. We're going to replace the medians that are falling down all over the roads. We're going to replace the potholes. We're going to put a nice new coat of asphalt over the top. No, we don't have to rip the road out and spend 7 years building a new road because they cut everything. Because some designer said, well, we need a quarter of an inch more turn for safety reasons. No, we're going to do it right. We're going to get it done quickly. So today we're declaring public safety emergency in the District of Columbia. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's fantastic, is taking command of the Metropolitan Police Department as of this moment. And I'll be making the appropriate notifications to Congress and to the mayor. Our new DEA administrator is one of the top in the country. He better be Terry. If you're not, I'm going to get rid of you so fast. Terry Cole. Terry, thanks. Very good. We just got him, most highly recommended person. And you'll be designated as the interim federal commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Department. Okay? And you run them tough. They're good. You have a lot of good people. You have people that shouldn't be there. You also have people that shouldn't be there. They got in there because of woke. But you have a lot of great police. And those people are the ones that want to help you. This city will no longer be a sanctuary for illegal alien criminals. We will have full, seamless, integrated cooperation at all levels of law enforcement, and we'll deploy officers across the district with an overwhelming presence. You'll have more police, and you'll be so happy because you'll be safe. When you walk down the street, you're going to see police, or you're going to see FBI agents. We're going to have a lot of agents on the street. You're going to have a lot of essentially military, and we will bring in the military if it's needed. By the way, we're going to have National Guard, but Pete Hegseth will tell you about it. We will bring in the military if needed. People say, oh, that's so terrible. He's going to bring in, it's been used many times over the years. I don't think we'll need it. I think we've got so many great people, including the people that are in the police department with proper leadership. They'll immediately begin massive enforcement operations targeting known gangs, drug dealers, and criminal networks to get them the hell off the street, maybe get them out of the country, because a lot of them came into our country illegally. They shouldn't have been allowed in. They come from Venezuela. They come from all over the world. We're going to get them the hell out. They won't be here long. But some of these people, a lot of them are homegrown criminals. And these are bad people. These are rough people. And this is just a list of some of the people that were given to me today that were criminals removed from the DC streets this weekend. They were rough and tough. But we're rougher and tougher. Look at these people here. Nothing, you know, they're not going to be your local school teacher. Look at this guy. He has killed people numerous times. They're not going to be an asset. They will never be an asset to society. I don't care. I know we all want to say, oh, they're going to be rehabbed. They're not going to be rehabbed. I'm going to ask Doug Burgum to come up and say a couple of words because he's in charge, as you know, he's interior, but he's in charge of the U.S. Park Police. And I've heard so many great things about the Park Police. They're proud of it. They've been there for a long time. Their families oftentimes grow into the roles. They love the country. They love this area. So Doug, could you say a few words, please?
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the U.S. Park Police, this is the oldest federal police force in the nation. They were formed in 1791 by none other than President George Washington. They've got the awesome responsibility of protecting our nation's most sacred monuments. the National Mall, Washington Monument, Jefferson Memorial, Lincoln Memorial, Statue of Liberty, and out west, the Presidio and the Golden Gate area. These folks have tens of millions of visitors a year, the kind of people that President Trump's talking about that come from around the country and around the world to see our sacred and learn about our history and our sacred monuments. They've been doing a fantastic job, but they are so pleased, the rank and file, that President Trump is now allowing them to enforce the law. As those of you that live in the city may know, that the circles and the triangle parks that are spread throughout DC are actually federal park property. So the U.S. Park Police also have responsibility for that. These became littered with homeless camps under the Biden administration. All of you saw that. Since President Trump's executive order on March 27th, making DC safe and beautiful again, the U.S. Park Police have removed over 70 homeless camps. And President Trump also talked about beautification. They're stopping and enforcing the laws against graffiti on our monuments. They've removed over 80 specific attacks against our history with graffiti on our monuments. So they continue to do a great job, whether it's in their vehicles, on foot, or on the mounted police that you see around the National Mall. And President Trump, they thank you. The rank and file is so happy to be enforcing the law again. Thank you for your leadership. And they're excited about the announcement you're making today.
That's very good. Great job, Peter. Thank you very much. Pete, could you say something about the military?
Well, Mr. President, it's an honor to be here. And at your direction, this morning, we mobilized the DC National Guard. It'll be operationalized by the Secretary of the Army, Dan Driscoll, through the DC Guard. You will see them flowing into the streets of Washington in the coming week. At your direction as well, sir, there are other units we are prepared to bring in. Other National Guard units, other specialized units. They will be strong, they will be tough, and they will stand with their law enforcement partners. This is nothing new for DOD. As the president noted, at the border, we've got 10,000 troops down there who've been operating in defense cooperation areas, defense zones, where there's zero illegal crossings because of troops on strikers scanning the border. We've been protecting other people's borders for 20 years. It's about time we protect our own. And we're working with ICE and CBP. In Los Angeles, we did the same thing, working with the California National Guard, working with ICE officers. ICE officers deserve to do their job and not be attacked. But we will work alongside all DC police and federal law enforcement to ensure this city is safe, this city is beautiful. And as I always say about President Trump to the troops, he has their back. And my message to the National Guard and federal law enforcement in Washington is, we have your back as well. Be tough, be strong, we're right behind you. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Pam, because she's now, as you heard me say, she's really in charge of a lot of what we're talking about. She's done an incredible job. People are going to start to see the fruits of her labor. And Pam, maybe you could say a few words about what we're talking.
Let's go back to Bloomberg about their commentary.
Federal law enforcement already over the weekend walking around the streets, in their windbreakers and stuff. But in that part of DC, you just don't have the sort of rampant crime. I will note that Trump also talked about getting rid of homeless people and getting rid of what he called slums in DC, which, I'm not even sure what he's talking about there. There are low-income areas, but the city hasn't had slums for quite a while.
All right, and you've been talking about dispatching FBI agents. He actually confirmed that they're going to be on the streets of Washington, D.C. But what kind of impact could that have, having the agents there on the streets?
I'm not sure what sort of impact this is going to have, except perhaps because the need doesn't meet the actions that the White House is taking today. There is normal urban crime, in DC and the other cities he's mentioned. I will note that the other cities he's mentioned are in Democratic states. DC is a Democratic area. He's mentioned New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. Those are all in blue states. Crime is also up in, for example, St. Louis and New Orleans and cities in red states. And he is not talking about taking any action there.
Wendy, thank you so much for your reporting. Wendy Benjaminson, she is a senior editor for Bloomberg News. She is based in our Washington, D.C. bureau. We will return to the press conference in Washington, D.C. with President Trump when it gets to the question and answer part of that. So we will rejoin that when that occurs. Right now, let's get a reset here with Charlie Pollack.
Hi, thank you very much. Here's what's going on. Paul Sweeney recapping, resetting here. President Trump, you heard him moments ago, right here on Bloomberg, announcing he will take control of Washington's Metropolitan Police Department and deploy the National Guard to reduce crime and homelessness in the nation's capital.
We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Good Night Formula. Good Night Formula is going to help you to get into 3 to 5 cycles of REM sleep and deep sleep. That will allow you for consolidation of memory, be well rested when you wake up, and to detoxify your central nervous system. This has tryptophan, melatonin, GABA, and passion flower. Very important for neural health and to be well rested. If you have chronic sleep deprivation, you have higher cortisol levels. So if you have high cortisol levels that are chronically elevated, guess what? That's immunosuppressive. So by having sleep deprivation, you're actually reducing your immune system. It's better to pay attention and make sure you get enough sleep. So take the Good Night Formula. And when you do this on a regular basis, you're also going to see that you're aging slower. And you're not turning into Swiss cheese. All right. Vitamin C and magnesium, dual purpose vitamin, dual purpose supplement. Vitamin C will help you with your skin. Vitamin C and magnesium will help with your immune system. And magnesium helps with the efficacy of vitamin D3. Magnesium also helps with brain function. Better start taking magnesium. You're going to need it because there's going to be a lot of people within the next 5 years that are going to have early onset of dementia. Magnesium and zinc, super important, brain function and for your immune system. So a great stack would be to take the magnesium and zinc, the vitamin C and magnesium, and the Good Night Formula. So you're helping with your skin, you're helping with your immune system, you're helping with your brain function. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, use discount 5. Also, get Cleanse. It's a 30 parts per million. It's a solution. Take a teaspoon a day, swish in your mouth, gargle about 20-30 seconds and swallow. That'll improve your oral cavity. That'll improve the health of your oral pharynx. It's going to improve the mucosal barrier and the health of the epithelial lining. All that is going to allow for you to be boosting up your immune system. Super important. Take it every day. If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two a day. And then go back to your maintenance dose when you are feeling better. Or the people around you are feeling better. So you can use it prophylactically. Please go to my store and get the structural nano silver soaps. Very high quality. Get the lavender or the peppermint, lemongrass, and the last version that I have is charcoal tea tree. So get a few bars for your household. Very high quality structural nano silver soaps. Get a few bars for your household. Get a few items. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off anywhere. And structural nano silver toothpaste. This toothpaste is the highest quality toothpaste that you can get. You can't get anything better than this. It has no fluoride. It whitens your teeth, freshens your breath, helps with gum health and reducing inflammation. And with good oral hygiene, you're going to improve your vascular and your valvular system. A lot of people don't realize, especially when you start getting into your geriatric years, but if you have bad oral hygiene, you're potentially causing problems with your vascular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the best toothpaste that you can buy. Get a few tubes of it. Use discount 5. You spend $100 or more on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You get it for a gift until supplies last.
department and the federal authorities will be supported in the effort, a really big effort. The 800 DC National Guardsmen that we'll put on, and much more if necessary, much more. You remember I said, I offered 10,000 once. Remember I said to a certain person who I thought always was highly overrated, not very competent. But I said, if you need them, we'll give you 10,000 of the military or the National Guard. They turned me down. But if necessary, we're going to move service members directly to joining the Guardsmen. And that'll take place very rapidly, and that'll be done in conjunction with Pam and with Pete and everybody else. Washington, D.C. should be one of the safest, cleanest, and most beautiful cities anywhere in the world. And we're going to make it that. We're going to make it safe. We're going to make it smart. We're going to make it beautiful, so beautiful. Some of the buildings, we're going to add to it. You see what we've done at the White House. The White House is a whole different building. I do that in my part-time because it's a natural instinct as a real estate person. I was very good at that, and I was very good at fixing things up. I like fixing things up. You see what's happening. The marble floors are being reinstalled, renovated, fixed. The whole place is becoming very beautiful. We're going to be adding a magnificent ballroom, most beautiful ballroom, I think, anywhere. We need it. I would have certainly loved to have had it today. I think we would have filled it up. A lot of you are standing outside, can't get in this room. I've never seen a room like this, which tells me that you want to talk about, I mean, this was a DC news conference. It tells me that you want to talk about crime in DC and beautification of DC, but I'm going to put that's easy. And I think, frankly, fixing the crime with the pros, fixing the crime is easy too. A person who I've known for a long time, and she's been incredible. She was a fantastic, one of the best ever district attorneys in New York. She was in Westchester and became a judge, very successful judge. And then she went into show business because she was such a good DA and such a good judge, tough judge, but fair, always fair. Nobody ever complained about that, but she was tough. And because of that and her reputation, she went into show business. So a lot of people don't, they think of Janine as show business. Actually, show business was not her thing. And she did great. She was on along with a couple of other of my friends on the #1 show. And
I actually know her. I know a lot of people.
And I'd like to speak for just a few seconds on what she has in mind, what she wants to do. We're going to be appointing some judges. We have some open spots, and we're going to take people, because the judges are letting killers out. They just say, go, that's okay, don't worry about it. So we're putting some, Pam recommended, Todd recommended, some judges that are great. Janine recommended. Janine's given me 3 great candidates already. We have about 10 open spots, and we could probably create some more. We need them. Janine, would you say a few words, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, and to all my partners here. We all want the same thing. We all want a safe city. We want a safe capital. We want to be able to bring our families here. We want to be able to come and enjoy the history that makes this place great. And unfortunately, we are not in that position right now. And Mr. President, I want to thank you for taking the step that we need right now to make criminals understand that they are not going to get away with it anymore. And I'm not going to stand here and go over and over the cases. But what I can tell you is this. I see too much violent crime being committed by young punks who think that they can get together in gangs and crews and beat the hell out of you or anyone else. They don't care where they are. They can be in DuPont Circle, but they know that we can't touch them. Why? Because the laws are weak. I can't touch you if you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old and you have a gun. I convict someone of shooting another person with an illegal gun on a public bus in the chest, intent to kill. I convict him. And you know what the judge gives him? Probation. Says you should go to college. We need to go after the DC Council and their absurd laws. We need to get rid of this concept of, no cash bail. We need to recognize that the people who matter are the law-abiding citizens. And it starts today. But it's not going to end today, because the president is going to do everything we need to do to make sure that these emboldened criminals understand we see you, We're watching you and we're gonna change the law to catch you. And my final note is this. These kids understand that the jurisdiction is to the state attorney general, Brian Schwab. I did a poster of the young man from Doge who was beaten bloody with a severe concussion, a broken nose. And then I did a poster of what happens to those kids because I can't arrest them. I can't prosecute them. They go to family court and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough. It changes today. Thank you, Mr. President.
You are. Great job. Thank you. If I could, I just signed some executive orders. I'd like to have Will please come up and we'll let the people know what we signed. Do you want to put them down?
Yes, sir. A short while ago in the Oval Office, President Trump signed two crucial executive actions to deal with the emergency crime conditions we currently face in the District of Columbia. The first of these was an executive order, as President Trump said before, invoking his powers under Section 40 of the Home Rule Act to take federal control of the DC Metropolitan Police Department. Along with that executive order, President Trump signed the statutorily required notification letters to Mayor Bowser and to the relevant House and Senate committee leaders. The second major executive action that President Trump signed was a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Defense to utilize the National Guard to address the conditions we see on our streets here in DC. It also authorized the Secretary of Defense to work with state governors to utilize their National Guard units if necessary as well. These are bold, decisive steps intended to combat the out-of-control crime conditions we've seen on DC's streets for far too long. And I, for one, am deeply proud to be part of an administration that's finally coming to terms with these issues, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. So, just to conclude, Washington, D.C. should be one of the safest, cleanest, most beautiful places anywhere in the world. It was years ago. We had one problem that was a pretty big problem. The radical left got out of control and they started trying to rip down statues. And I said, let's go pass the law real fast. We're going to do it real fast. But we were blocked by the Democrats who do not want safety. Nobody gets it. I don't get it. They don't get it because they can't get votes. I don't know how they can win an election with this, but they don't want safety. And I found an old statute, very old, early 1900s, that said if you so much as touch or even think about destroying a statue or a monument in Washington, D.C., you go to jail for 10 years with no probation, no anything. Look, it was slightly different than we have today. Today we have cashless bail. Then you get jailed 10 years. No curtailed sentence, 10 years. And we took it out. Nobody used it. It was never used because, you know, it's harsh. And you remember they started to rip down the statue of Abraham Lincoln. I said, that's a tough one to rip down. He was pretty good, man. I think he was pretty good. When the rope started going around Abraham Lincoln to pull him down, Andrew Jackson, others, and they were heading to the Jefferson Memorial, Thomas Jefferson. We're going to do a big number there. I said, it's time. And I signed that statute immediately. We had it updated. We made it use the same language, all passed by Congress. And I announced it's 10 years in jail, no probation, no anything, 10 years, no curtail sentence if you touch, so much as touch a statue in Washington, D.C. And it was an amazing sight, beautiful sight. Everybody just left. The ropes were hanging around Andrew Jackson. And there were two ropes around Abraham Lincoln. They left the rope. But everybody just left. And that was the last problem we ever had. You know, that was the last problem that we ever had with the statues. They were going wild. And somebody came to me and said, sir, in 1910, I don't want to give you the exact, because you'll say, Donald Trump gave us wrong days around like early on, you know, but slightly off. They make you sound a little bad. So I won't put myself in that position. I won't put you in that position. Because I think everybody agrees with what we're doing today, but when I signed that thing, it was like a miracle. Everybody left. They were gone. They were starting to march down. They started the march toward Thomas Jefferson. And I figured he was always going to be safe. But they found something with him, and they found something with Abraham Lincoln. And even in the name George Washington in California, numerous places changed the name of George Washington High School and various other places. They took George Washington's name. This was a sick, woke culture that I think we've largely ended. And a lot of those people that were woke are now turning out to be the opposite. I won't go so far as to say MAGA. It's a very special category, but they've gotten out of there. But we have people that love this country, and they love this really beautiful capital. It is. I flew over it the other day, and I said, "What a beautiful place!" But if there's crime all over the streets, when you get there, it doesn't look so beautiful. But we're going to make it beautiful again. We're going to fix it with crime, and we're going to also, as we're doing that, we're going to start doing things that we know how to do, that I know how to do better than anybody, I guess, because of my experience from previous life. But not only are we stopping the crime, we're going to clean up the trash and the graffiti and the grime and the dirt and the broken marble panels and all of the things they've done to hurt this city. And we're going to restore the city back to the gleaming capital that everybody wants it to be. It's going to be something very special. All of these people are really tough. Could I shake your hand, Getty, please? You're going to be so important here. You're going to be that guy. I hope I don't have to fire him in 2 weeks because he's too soft. I don't think he's too soft. If I do, I will, though. Is it okay if you're soft, weak, and pathetic, like so many people? I will fire you so fast. You're not going to have to worry about that. No, I think you're going to do a fantastic job. And everybody in this room, they may not express it, but they all want that to happen. You know, they want to be safe, and they have families too. So it's an honor to have such a large group. I've done this for years now, hard to believe.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support the work that I do. I'm telling you how to improve your health and your wellness. Now, a great stat to help with your immune system and bringing down inflammation and helping your vascular system is the following stack. Turmeric. It's an antioxidant. It's going to soak up free radicals. It's going to bring down pro-inflammatory cytokines. When you bring down inflammation, you're helping multiple systems. You're helping your nervous system. You're helping your immune system. You're helping your endocrine system. You're helping with your joint health. You have overinflammation at the joints. Bringing down that inflammation with turmerics will help with that. Now, turmeric couples really well with ashwagandha root. Ashwagandha root will help to control your cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels. It's going to bring down stress. It's going to bring down inflammation. That's very beneficial for your cardiovascular health. That's very beneficial for your immune system. When you bring down that inflammation at the cerebral level, your neurons will have less inflammation, and therefore the myelin sheath will have more integrity, and therefore your neuroplasticity will be better, your electrical signaling will be better, you'll think faster, you'll have better memory, none of that motor coordination will be better. So individuals that are chronically inflamed, they have higher levels of cortisol. And chronic levels of cortisol will damage tissues, be immunosuppressive. And so it's important to bring down that chronic inflammation. You can do that with the turmeric and the ashwagandha. Also, take lignans. Lignans is an antioxidant. It's going to soak up free radicals. It's going to bring down inflammation. It's going to help the immune system and the endocrine system. So stacking these together is a powerful stack to help that immune system, to help that cardiovascular health. and to help with brain health. Because you're bringing down systemic inflammation, right? So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the turmeric, the ashwagandha, and the ligaments. Now, no matter what the season is, it's really important to be prepared. If you start having a throat irritation, and many people are going to have this issue in the fall, be prepared, get the lozenges. I have it in cherry flavor. I have it in honey and lemon, and also in blueberry drops. The drops and the lozenges are very high quality. The drops are a little bit smaller. You get 100 in each bag. And the lozenges, you get 21 in each bag. And I have the lozenges in elderberry zinc in stock. Get a few bags for your household or for work. The moment you have that irritation, make sure you take it right away. Super important. Because if you let it fester, you're going to start causing problems, drainage, and then it's going to be more problematic. But if you catch it early and you get rid of that throat irritation right away, you're mitigating the problem. So please go to my store and get the very high quality drops and lozenges. And lastly, the gels. These gels are dual purpose. You can get it in a tube form or a dispenser form. Have some at work, have some at home. Never know when you need it. If you're not feeling well or someone around you is not feeling well, put it on your hands, around your mouth, around your eyes, around your nose, around your ears, lightly coat your nostrils. It stays active for 5.5 hours. You can use it as a daily skincare. You can also put it on an abrasion, a minor burn, or a cut. It'll help to heal it quicker. You can use it as an aftershave. So it's a dual purpose product. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the gels, very high quality. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last.
Reported it, which is fine. We're looking at it. Some people like it, some people hate it. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because if it does bad for the children, it does bad for people that are older than children. But we're looking at reclassification and we'll make a determination over the next, I would say, over the next few weeks. And that determination hopefully will be the right one. Very complicated subject is, the subject of marijuana. I've heard great things having to do with medical, and I've had bad things having to do with just about everything else. But medical and, for pain and various things, I've heard some pretty good things, but for other things, I've heard some pretty bad things. The other part of your question, I mean, we're just going to see what happens with it all. We're going to have a tremendous success in what we're doing. Other cities are hopefully watching this. They're all watching, just like everyone's watching here. They're all watching, and maybe they'll clean up, and maybe they'll do this and get rid of the cashless bail thing and all of the things that caused the problem. I mean, if you go back, this whole thing with cashless bail is a disaster. So many problems came that we never had before. So they're watching us today, and if they don't learn their lesson, if they haven't studied us properly, because we're going to be very successful, I have zero doubt about that. It's going to be. It's a question of will it be really fast, like the border. And everyone said, they used to say, Biden used to say, I need legislation. I didn't get any legislation. I called up our people, and we did a great job. Tom Homan was great. As you know, our secretary did a great job. They did a great job. There's no games. They didn't play games. And we're going to have the same thing here. But then I'm going to look at New York in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man. And we have an incompetent governor there. Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business, and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance. You never know what happens. But Pritzker's a gross incompetent guy, thrown out of the family business. But when I look at Chicago and I look at LA, If we didn't go to LA 3 months ago, LA would be burning like the part that didn't burn. If he would have allowed the water to come down, which I told him about in my first term, I said, you're gonna have problems, let it come down. We actually sent in our military to have the water come down into LA. They still didn't want it to come down after the fires. But that was it, we have it coming down. But hopefully LA is watching. That mayor also, the city's burning. They lost like 25,000 homes. I went there the day after the fire. You were there, and I saw people standing in front of a burned down home. It was, their homes were incinerated. They weren't like, even the steel was literally, it was all warped and literally disintegrated because of the winds and the flame and the whole thing, like a blowtorch. They were standing on this beautiful day, maybe a couple of days after. They gave it a little time because what they had suffered. Almost 25,000 homes. And you see what's happening now. They didn't give their permits. I went to a town hall meeting. I said, we're going to get you the federal permits, which are much harder. Almost immediately, Lee Zeldin is a star. He did an incredible job. They have all their federal permits. They don't have their city permits. And the mayor said to me, we think we can have them in 2 years. I was walking down the street and I met with firemen and police. And I was saying hello to many people that were standing in front of their homes with yellow tape. You can't go in, you can't go onto the lot. And those people wanted to start rebuilding their homes then and there. And the mayor said, we should be able to get them the permits within 2 years. I said, that's a shame, 2 years. Are you kidding? I'm going to get them the federal permit like almost immediately, 2 years. And she grew it back. Well, maybe 1 year. The place was booing her out of the place. They don't have their permits to build their homes. And now they're talking about putting, this is among the most beautiful areas was in the country. Now they're talking about putting low-income housing there. Can you believe this? I love low-income housing. I made money with low-income housing. I built low-income housing. I know more about low-income housing and luxury housing. I know about everything real estate. They want to replace some of those homes with low-income housing. They haven't gotten their permits yet. We've gotten all the federal permits, which are much tougher to get. And it was done almost immediately through Lee Zeldin and Federal Environmental. And I watched the other day, those people are angry. And now, you know, they had tremendous, they love that area. They loved the whole big area, different places, but they loved it. It was all luxury stuff and beautiful stuff. And some wasn't that luxury, but the level of love for that neighborhood, their neighborhoods was incredible. And you know what? I watch people on television, they want to go, they want to leave. They've lost their spirit, they've lost their heart because the mayor's incompetent. And I did. I got the Olympics to go there. I was the one that got it. And by a rare thing that happened, I'll be the president. I was very upset because I got the Olympics and I said I won't be president when it comes, but bad things happened and illegal things happened, really illegal things happened. Now it turns out one good thing was I'm going to be the president for the Olympics for 2050, for 250, which is going to be fantastic, and also for the World Cup. So we have a lot of good things. I hope 250 is going to be the 250th anniversary is going to be the best. But when I looked at those people and I saw it last night on television that they still don't have their permits, it's a disgrace what's happened.
Thank you. The China tariff deadline is tonight, but do you plan to extend that?
We'll see what happens. China's been, we've been dealing very nicely with China, as you probably have heard. They have tremendous tariffs that they're paying to the United States of America. And we'll see what happens. They've been dealing quite nicely. The relationship is very good with President Xi and myself.
You mentioned you're going to the president. Can you tell us what you need to get out of that, whether you're considering doing Zelensky and joining?
So you have to understand, there's a war that should have never happened. There's a war that wouldn't have happened if I were president. Would have never happened. It was the apple of his eye. I got along very well with President Putin. But if you look, under President Bush, they took a lot of territory. Under President Obama, they took a lot of territory. Under Biden, they essentially took the whole thing. You know, it's just a question of time. Under Trump, you know what they took? Nothing. I was the one that said, You can't build your pipeline that was half built. I came in, I stopped the pipeline. It's called Nord Stream 2. Nobody knows that, nobody ever heard of Nord Stream 2. You might have not even heard of it. Biggest pipeline in the world. I stopped it. I was not a friend of Russia, but I got along well with Putin. It's always good to get along with other countries if possible, but that doesn't mean you roll over like Biden did. Biden came in and he immediately approved the pipeline. I couldn't believe it. Then they say Trump wasn't tough on Russia. I wasn't tough. I was the toughest. Putin said, if you're not tough, I would hate like hell to see you. I stopped the biggest economic development job, the biggest job that Russia had ever built. I stopped it. It was dead. And this low IQ president came in and he let them build the pipeline and supply oil and gas all over Europe, So this is really a feel-out meeting a little bit. And President Putin invited me to get involved. He wants to get involved. I believe he wants to get it over with. Now, I've said that a few times, and I've been disappointed because I'd have like a great call with him, and then missiles would be lobbed into Kiev or some other place, and you'd have 60 people laying on a road dying. I said, that's cold, but it's a violent war. 5,000 to 7,000 people a week are dying. And there's nobody from here. They're all Russian and Ukrainian people, and some people from the cities, much smaller number, but still, those missiles do damage and they kill a lot of people, but mostly soldiers. And they're young soldiers, although in the case of Ukraine, they're getting much older. They're drafting 60-year-olds now. It's a terrible thing to witness, and I think I have an obligation. Look, this is Joe Biden's war. This is not my war. I made a deal with NATO a month ago. You covered it very accurately, actually. We don't pay anything anymore. We're not paying anything. They are buying things from us, and NATO is paying us. I got it raised from 2% of GDP to 5%. And they're paying us for everything that we send. We're not paying. But Biden approved $350 billion. Europe has spent $100 billion. The money that's been spent and the death is incredible. It's the worst thing that's happened, by far the worst that's happened since World War II. So I'm going in to speak to Vladimir Putin. And I'm going to be telling him, you got to end this war. You got to end it. And he wasn't going to mess with me. This war would have never happened. We had a discussion about it one time, and we never had that discussion again. Would have never happened. And when the election was rigged, and then Biden took office, which was barely took office, the auto pen took office, bad things started happening. Bad things, stupid things were said, and it ended up in a war. And and I don't believe this will happen anymore because I have that pretty well covered. This could end up in a third world war. This could have been a third world war. I don't think that's going to happen now. But I thought it was very respectful that the president of Russia is coming to our country as opposed to us going to his country or even a third party place. But I think we'll have constructive conversations. Then after that meeting, immediately, maybe as I'm flying out, maybe as I'm leaving the room, I'll be calling the European leaders who I get along with very well. And, I have a great relationship, I think, with all of them. And I get along with Zelensky, but, I disagree with what he's done. Very, very severely disagree. This is a war that should have never happened, wouldn't have happened. But I'll be speaking to Zelensky. The next meeting will be with Zelensky and Putin, or Zelensky and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. I was a little bothered by the fact that Zelensky was saying, well, I have to get constitutional approval. I mean, he's got approval to go into war and kill everybody, but he needs approval to do a land swap because there'll be some land swapping going on. I know that through Russia and through conversations with everybody to the good, for the good of Ukraine. Good stuff, not bad stuff. Also, some bad stuff for both. So there's good and there's bad. But it's very complex because you have lines that are very uneven. And there'll be some swapping. There'll be some changes in land. And the word that they will use is, they make changes. We're going to change the lines, the battle lines. Russia's occupied a big portion of Ukraine. They've occupied some very prime territory. We're going to try and get some of that territory back for Ukraine. but they've taken some very prime territory. They've taken largely ocean, you know, in real estate, we call it oceanfront property. That's always the most valuable property. If you're in a lake, a river, or an ocean, it's always the best property. Well, Ukraine, a lot of people don't know that Ukraine was largely 1,000 miles of ocean. That's gone. Other than one small area, Odessa, it's a small area. There's just a little bit of water left. So I'm going to go and see the parameters. Now I may leave and say, good luck. And that'll be the end. I may say this is not going to be settled. I mean, there are those that believe that Putin wanted all of Ukraine. I happen to be one of them, by the way. I think if it weren't for me, he would not be even talking to anybody else right now. But I'm going to meet with him. We're going to see what the parameters are. And then I'm going to call up President Zelensky and the European leaders right after the meeting, yeah. And I'm going to tell them what kind of a deal. I'm not going to make a deal. It's not up to me to make a deal. I think a deal should be made for both. I think Russia has to get back into building their country. It's a massive country. I think they have 11 time zones, if you can believe it. It's a massive, it's by far, from the standpoint of land, it's by far the largest. They have tremendous potential in Russia to do well. They're not doing well. Their economy is not doing well right now because it's been very well disturbed by this. It doesn't help when the president of the United States tells their largest or second largest oil buyer that we're putting a 50% tariff on you if you buy oil from Russia. That was a big blow. And then they said, gee, he wasn't so tough. Nobody else would have done that. And I haven't stopped there. I mean, look, I was all set to do things far bigger than that. But I got a call that they'd like to meet, and I'm going to see what they want to meet about. I'd like to see a ceasefire. I'd like to see the best deal that can be made for both parties. You know, it takes two to tango, right? So ultimately, I'll have a meeting next week. I had a great relationship with him, considering the fact that, I was not nice to him because of the pipeline. I ended the pipeline. I also gave the Javelin. Do you ever hear of a Javelin? Javelin is called a tank buster. They say that Obama gave them sheets and I gave them Javelins. If it weren't for me, all those tanks that were destroyed at the first days of the war because the tanks got stuck in the mud, some commander made a better they would have been in Kiev in 4 hours going down the highway. But a Russian general made a brilliant decision to go through the farmland instead. And they just had torrential rains, and the rains were so bad, and it was mud, and those tanks got stuck in the mud. I don't know who that general is, but knowing Vladimir, he's probably not around any longer because all those tanks were stuck in the mud, and they went along with the Javelins. I gave them the Javelins. You know that, right? I gave them Javelins. They gave them sheets. But I'm going to meet with President Putin, and we're going to see what he has in mind. And if it's a fair deal, I'll reveal it to the European Union leaders and to the NATO leaders, and also to President Zelensky. I think out of respect, I'll call him first, and then I'll call them after. And I may say, lots of luck, keep fighting, or I may say we can make a deal. I will tell you this, I've seen a poll coming out of Ukraine. 88% of the people would like to see a deal made. And if you go back 3 years, everybody was gung-ho for war. Everybody's gung-ho for war until you haven't. It's an amazing thing. I had it with a couple of countries where I couldn't get a deal done with one particular country. And I just couldn't. The guy's great. He's a friend of mine, right? Good leader, tough as hell. I couldn't get the deal done. And then he went into war for a short period of time. You know where I'm talking about. First term. And it was nasty. Guys being killed all over the place. And he went through 1 week of war, and I was able to get the deal done. He said, this is nasty. Yes, please.
Follow up on what you were saying. First of all, Vladimir Zelensky is not invited on Friday.
He wasn't a part of it. I would say he could go, but he's gone to a lot of meetings. He's been there for 3.5 years. Nothing happened.
Now, why doesn't that?
I mean, you want somebody that's been doing this for 3.5 years? What's the definition of a good deal? I'll tell you after I hear what the deal is, because there could be many definitions. You're talking about a very large and complex situation. Now, I tell you, the war that I just settled with Azerbaijan and with, as you know, and Armenia was almost as complex as this one, having to do with routes.
Meeting on Friday with Vladimir.
Well, we're gonna have a meeting with Vladimir Putin, and at the end of that meeting, probably in the first 2 minutes, I'll know exactly whether or not a deal can be made. Because that's what I do, I'm making us.
Please go ahead. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm gonna ask you two questions, one about China, one about Russia. If I could, on China, your administration agreed to send the most advanced or advanced NVIDIA and AMD chips.
No, obsolete, no.
Obsolete chip. Well, and then 15% of the
It's in 20s. No, this is an old chip that China already has. And I deal with Jensen, who is a great guy, and NVIDIA. The chip that we're talking about, the H20, it's an old chip. China already has it in a different form, different name, but they have it. Or they have a combination of two will make up for it and even then some. Now Jensen's a very brilliant guy. And Jensen also has a new chip, the Blackwell. Do you know what the Blackwell is? The Blackwell is super duper advanced. I wouldn't make a deal with that, although it's possible I'd make a deal, a somewhat enhanced in a negative way, Blackwell. In other words, take 30% to 50% off of it. But that's the latest and the greatest in the world. Nobody has it. They won't have it for 5 years. But the H20 is obsolete. You know, it's one of those things, but it still has a market. So I said, listen, I want 20% if I'm going to approve this for you, for the country, for our country, for the US. I don't want it myself. You know, every time I say like 747, I want, yeah. For the Air Force. That's so I just wanted. So when I say I want 20, I want for the country. I only care about the country. I don't care about myself. And he said, would you make it 15? So we negotiate a little deal. So he's selling a essentially old chip that Huawei has a similar chip, a chip that does the same thing. And I said, good, if I'm going to give it to you, because they have a they have a stopper, what we call a stopper, not allowed to do it. A restricted is really known as a restrictive covenant. And I said, if I'm going to do that, I want you to pay us as a country something, because I'm giving you a release. I released them only from the H20. Now, on the Blackwell, I think he's coming to see me again about that. But that will be a unenhanced version of the big one. Like, I don't know if you know, we will sometimes sell fighter jets to a country and we'll give them 20% less than we have. You know what I mean, right? That's just it.
Do you see a time, Mr. President, when there could be normal trade between the US and Russia? Should the meeting go well? Should there be peace?
I do. Russia has a very valuable piece of land. If Vladimir Putin would go toward business instead of toward war, you know, it's a warring nation. That's what they do. They fight a lot of wars. A friend of mine said Russia's tough because they just keep on fighting. They beat Hitler, so did we. And they beat Napoleon. You know, they've been doing this for a long time. I asked a question to a very, very smart man that some people like and some people don't like. Viktor Orban, right? From Hungary, the head of Hungary. And he's in that same area and knows the two countries very well. I said, this was before Biden didn't do anything to get us out of it. He could have gotten us out of that. It would have never happened. I said, so can Russia be beaten by Ukraine? He looked at me like, what a stupid question. He said, Russia's a massive country and they win their country and they win their life through wars. They fight wars. That's what they do. He said, China beat you with trade. Russia beat you with war. It was a very interesting statement. China's not beating us with trade, not when I'm in charge, but they were beating Biden with trade, but they never beat us with trade. Don't forget, China had to pay $400 billion worth of tariffs when I was last time. That was last time. And if we didn't have COVID, all of this stuff we would be loaded. We're finding hundreds of billions of dollars of cash is pouring into our country now because of tariffs. And all we're doing is we're doing what they do to us. It's so beautiful to see it. They found last month, as you saw, $25 million of excess cash flow. They say, where did it come from? I said, I'll tell you where it came from. It came from a place called tariffs. And we're doing very well. We're really doing well. But I expect to have a meeting with Putin that I think it'll be good, but it might be bad. And I'm here for one reason, to get rid of a war that somebody else started. Should have never happened. And if I could end it, great. Complex war, a lot of bad blood, But Zelensky's been there for 3.5 years. So if you put him in a room, now I will say this, ultimately I'm gonna put the two of them in a room. I'll be there or won't be there. And I think it'll get solved. Yeah, please. Yeah. Excuse me, I'm gonna suggest, because do you have any other questions? On DC, because I don't want them to do. Wait. These are incredible people. I don't want them to be standing up here. On subjects, does anybody have a question of them? And then you guys leave. Okay, a question.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the probiotic. This probiotic is a powder. You mix it with soft foods or with filtered water. Take it every day. With a good gut biome, you're going to be able to absorb your nutrients. You're going to improve your mucosal lining in your gut. You're going to improve your immune system. You're going to improve the communication between your gut and your liver. Your metabolism will improve. And you're going to improve the communication between your gut and your brain. You're going to sleep better. You're going to have less brain fog. You're going to be able to concentrate. And with proper sleep, you're going to be able to detoxify your central nervous system, consolidate memory, and be well rested. So it behooves you to actually take a good probiotic. It's a foundational piece, and you build off of that stack. So go to my store and get this very high quality probiotic. Also, omega-3. Omega-3 helps bring down systemic inflammation and helps with your lipid profile. Helps to bring down LDL levels and helps to increase your HDL levels. By taking omega-3, you're reducing the chances of plaque buildup. And D3 and K2 are supplements that you should stack together. Taking calcium either through drinking milk or taking a calcium supplement and doing resistance training is going to help you to increase your bone density. In addition, D3 and K2 help to pull out some of the calcium depositing around plaque formation at the vascular level and reduce the buildup of plaque around these plaque formations. So please go to my store, get the K2 and the D3. If you take magnesium, you're increasing the efficacy of vitamin D3. So a great stack is taking the K2, D3 for your bone density and your vascular system, omega-3 to help with your vascular system, and for your gut health, taking the probiotic. And probiotics also help with your skin. With the proper gut biome, you're going to improve your hair, your nails, and your skin health. So this is a great stack. Omega-3, the probiotic, D3, and K2. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5. You get $5 off any order. You spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last.
What happens. I'll let you know what happens. You'll be the first to know. I'll be calling the European leaders. I'm going with totally. I mean, we have a lot of talks. They're great people. They're great leaders, actually. They want to get back. Honestly, as one of them said, I've OD'd on trying to settle Ukraine. They've OD'd, meaning they've overdosed on the settlement of Ukraine. Not a nice expression, but boy, is it accurate. They're tired of it. They want to get back to spending money on their countries. You know, they're in Biden gave them $350 billion. Europe gave 100 billion. It should be much more than that. Shouldn't have been that kind of, it should have had equalization, but they didn't. But you know what? Still a lot of money. They want to get back to building their own countries. They really want to resolve. My relationship with the European leaders, as you saw, is extremely good. It's perfect. It's beautiful. Wait. And we're gonna try, I'll be in touch with them. I have 5 of them call me. You think it's easy? There are a lot of European leaders, but they rely on me, very much rely on me. If it wasn't for me, this thing would never get solved until the last person breathing is dead.
We've been talking before.
I'm talking to them right now. So I'm talking to the European leaders. I'll be talking to President Zelensky. I'm gonna get everybody's ideas. I go into that thing fully loaded right up there. And we're going to see what happens. Now, I think 1 or 2 things is going to happen. It could be a good meeting and we'll go a step further. We'll get it done. I'd like to see a ceasefire very, very quickly. Very quick. I'd like to see it immediately, but I'd like to see it very quickly. And we're going to be dealing with the European leaders and we're going to be dealing with President Zelensky. And hopefully we're going to have a great success. As far as this, what we did today, and I think you were here for DC more so than even Russia, because Russia will be, we have a couple of days to go, but the Russia is going to be very interested. But to me, what is very exciting, and we're going to take back our capital. We're going to make it beautiful again, but we're going to make it, more importantly, safe again. It's going to be so safe. It's going to be a model. And then we'll look at other cities also, but other cities are studying what we're doing. And you have some capable people in other cities. They can do it too. But we have a great group of professionals. We're going to have a safe, beautiful capital, and it's going to happen very quickly. Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
All right, there you have President Trump just now leaving the White House briefing room after a tour de force news conference that answered a number of questions we had about his approach to Washington, D.C., and federalizing the city, highlighting some crime statistics earlier that are at odds with some other numbers that we've seen. The president taking control of the police force and deploying National Guard troops to the streets of Washington. This is something that he signed 2 executive orders to implement before he actually spoke with reporters. And of course, we heard him talking to a range of issues, from the meeting with Vladimir Putin on Friday, the war, of course, that Russia has waged on Ukraine, but also a number of other topics, going from geopolitics through even renovations at the White House. We're going to be unpacking a lot of this coming up in Balance of Power here on Bloomberg Radio, satellite radio channel 121, and on YouTube, where you can find us right now, even before the show begins. Search Bloomberg Business News Live. We'll have much more to say here as we get through the program, as I was mentioning here, an important conversation that we're going to be bringing you with Scott Cooper, the director of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. We'll be hearing from a member of the administration here specific to the workforce, and also, as we just heard from President Trump, protecting that workforce. He's only been on the job for a couple of weeks here. He'll be with us to talk about DOGE cuts, personnel levels, and the culture inside our federal government here for federal workers. If you're with us in Washington on 99.1, it is a conversation that you will not want to miss. Are we touching base with Charlie? James, is that the plan here? Charlie's with us, so we may as well check in to see how training has been. It's been a while since we've been listening to Donald Trump, and we're up a little, down a little here. Not the most convincing session. Charlie Pellet is at World Headquarters in New York. How you seeing it?
Right now, up a little, down a little, Joe Matthew. That sums it up. Here's what's going on. We do have the S&P 500 index up a little, but trading at a record right now, up 563.95. That is a gain of 0.1%. The Nasdaq Composite Index also at a record of 58 right now. Gain there of 0.3%. The Dow, however, in the red. Dow Industrial is down by 0.2%. This Bloomberg Business Flash brought to you by Oracle. Attention growing businesses. Oracle's offering to cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. For new U.S. customers with minimum financial commitment, see if your company qualifies at oracle.com/Bloomberg. The 10-year yielding 4.27%, with the 2-year right now 3.78%. Spot gold down $49 the ounce, a drop there of 1.4%. West Texas Intermediate crude 63.85 $1.05 a barrel. A little change there. Bitcoin up 1.7%, 120,316 on Bitcoin. So again, recapping, U.S. stocks are trading mixed with the S&P 500 index up a little right now, up by about 0.1%. For on-demand news 24 hours a day, subscribe to Bloomberg News Now wherever you get your podcasts. Back we go to Washington. Balance of Power kicks off now. Once again, your host, here it is, Joe Matthew.
All right, Charlie, many thanks. We'll get back to Charlie a couple minutes away to touch some of the other headlines that are driving stocks and see how the Monday trade is shaping up here at lunchtime on the East Coast. We are watching shares of NVIDIA up about $1, about 0.5%, as the president just now, by the way, confirmed Bloomberg reporting a 15% levy, if I can call it that. The company, along with AMD, will be paying 15% of their revenues from Chinese AI chip sales to the United States government. And the president was even toying with the idea of making a deal over Blackwell. This previously mentioned deal would involve the H20 chips here. And we're also watching pot stocks on a tear today. The MJ marijuana ETF, Amplify Alternative Harvest, up over 18% as the president suggests reschedule.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. This helps to reduce the load on your pancreas, helps you to break up and digest carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. If you're 40 years of age or older, it's really important to take the digestive enzyme complex to reduce the load on your pancreas. Vitamin B complex, also important if you're 40 years of age or older, to increase your cellular metabolism, to help boost up your energy levels. The first 4 B vitamins helps with the electron transport chain within the mitochondria to be able to produce ATP. That's the energy source that you need for your cells. Also, B12 helps to support your neurons. Myotrol. Myotrol helps to build muscle and maintain muscle. Myotrol helps with the gene expression to be able to build that muscle and to maintain that muscle. When you get older, especially when you turn about age 40, it's harder to build muscle. You start to atrophy. So you need supplementation. So take Myotrol, do resistance training. It has polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to be able to help with the gene expression for building muscle. So a great stack would be to take Myotrol to help with your muscles and your strength, vitamin B complex to help with your neurons and your cellular metabolism, and digestive enzyme complex to help with your pancreatic health and to be able to help with digesting foods, and so you can absorb them easier. So please go to my store, get the digestive enzyme complex, the vitamin B complex, and Myotrol. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off any order. You spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last.
It means the world that I'm able to continue building a life for the kids that Jared and I both envisioned.
Later this week, the government is going to release retail sales data. First, though, we have the CNBC NRF retail monitor for you. Ready to go this morning. Senior economic reporter Steve Leisman joins us now. And over to say, Steve.
Morning, Joe. The CNBC NRF retail monitor jumped to its best monthly gain since we began assembling the data in 2022. That's a likely sign of some combination of a resilient consumer, big midsummer promotions from retailers, and possibly tariff-fueled inflation. The NRF monitor, it's fueled by real credit card spending data from Affinity Solutions. It jumped 1.5% in July from a negative 0.3% in June. The measure is ex-autos and gas. Total retail sales year over year up a strong 5.9% from 3.2. Core retail, which also removes restaurants, rose 1.6 on the month from that negative 0.3. Year over year was also 5.9%. July included Amazon's Prime Day, Walmart deals, Target Circle Week, and other chain midsummer promotions. The National Retail Federation pointed to those kind of promotions as potentially propelling sales, but said there was more. Quote, they said in their release or their commentary, we may be seeing growing inflationary impacts from tariffs since recent data show price increases in commodity goods, particularly non-durables. The monthly chart has turned choppy. You can see there could be a sign of the front running we saw before the tariffs, then a retrenchment after, and now maybe a rebound and some inflation. So it could be a combination of all of that in there. By sector, gas stations up a strong 2.7, but so were sporting goods and hobby stores up 2.4. General merchandise had a good month, 2%. Clothing accessories still strong, 1.7. Restaurants and bars, though, that not a sector that should have much tariff inflation. That was also up a strong 1%, less likely to have tariffs inside of those numbers. Moving on, what you can see here is what the NRF added that wages are growing faster than inflation. So consumers have the ability to keep spending. The census for Friday, for the census data, 0.5% gain with 0.3% ex autos, Joe.
Is this any of that surprising to you, given maybe we're seeing some weakness in the labor market? We keep hearing anecdotally maybe consumers are a little bit strapped.
Right. Something happened at the U.S. steel plant in Pittsburgh, mass casualty incident.
To share this social media post from Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro saying, my administration is in touch with local officials in Clairton, Pennsylvania, as they respond to an explosion at U.S. Steel Clairton Coke Works plant this morning. A number of agencies are in touch with first responders and have offered all assistance. The scene is still active, and folks nearby should follow the direction of local authorities. Please join Lori and me in praying for the Clairton community. So I did want to share that with you. We are getting a little bit more information from Governor Josh Shapiro as we go back to this live look right here. So this is in Clairton, the community of Clairton right there, as there has been a mass casualty incident. That is what first responders are describing this scene. We do know that it is at the U.S. Steel Clairton Coke Works plant. An explosion happening there this morning, and this is a multi-agency response right here. As you can still see, very active situation as we are following breaking news in this area. But this is a live look from that specific area, as we now know that this is in the Clairton community right there. And we continue to follow that as we update all of our information. We're getting new details right here, new information from Governor Josh Shapiro, as he says that his administration is in touch with local officials. So I did want to share that with you once again, the statement from Governor Josh Shapiro saying that his administration is in touch with local officials there in Clairton, Pennsylvania, as they respond to an explosion at the U.S. Steel Clairton Coke Works plant. That happened this morning. They are in touch with first responders and have offered assistance. We were sharing with you that live look. The camera has now changed locations. So we did want to share this information. A very active situation as we were sharing with you in those live looks right here.
My gut feeling is it's just an industrial accident. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the collagen. This collagen is dual purpose. It's going to help with your skin, your nails, your hair. It'll help with your musculature, your bones, your joints, your cartilage. Super important to take every day. It's a powder. You mix it with soft foods, filtered water, milk, or even a smoothie, but take it every day. Very important. NAD Plus helps to boost up your NAD Plus levels, increase your energy. NAD Plus also helps to repair DNA damage. It helps the repair mechanism. So when we get older, we start to accumulate DNA damage in our cells and in our mitochondria. NAD Plus will help our repair mechanism to repair that damage. Super important. And NAD Plus helps to protect neurons. Resveratrol is an antioxidant. It's going to soak up free radicals. It's going to help the health of the mitochondria. It's going to help with youthful gene expression. It's going to help to get rid of cells that are in senescence. Cells that stop dividing and just sit there, collect garbage, and you need to get rid of them. So resveratrol helps with that. I've been taking resveratrol for decades. It stacks really well with NAD+, ubiquinol, C60, clarity factor. So a great stack is NAD+ with resveratrol. You're helping with your mitochondrial health and youthful gene expression. You're helping to repair your DNA damage with the NAD+ and protect your neurons. And the collagen is helping with your bones, your skin, your joint health, and your musculature. It's a great stack. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. Click the link in this description to get to the website, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Bringing this, and we'll be talking about it through the day. If you're with us on 99.1 in Washington, D.C., we see you, and we'll be talking a lot more about the president's plans here. In fact, we're going to spend most of this hour talking about what's going on right here in our nation's capital, specific in this conversation to what's happening with the federal workforce. Scott Cooper started just weeks ago as the director of the Office of Personnel Management, OPM, as the wonks call it here in the nation's capital. And remembering the way this administration began and the reductions we saw in the federal workforce, some of the debates that we've had around this, it is, of course, Director Cooper who needs to implement, manage, and protect this workforce starting now. He's with us in studio, and it's great to see you in our Bloomberg offices. Welcome. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
I have a lot of questions for you, but I want to start with the news of the day here. President declaring a public safety emergency. Will you be involved as director of OPM in coordinating movement or deployment of federal law enforcement?
Not to my knowledge.
That's not in your umbrella.
It's not in my umbrella. If the president wants me to do it, I'm happy to, but it's not in my purview.
They're all federal employees, though, which is why I asked.
Yeah. I don't think so, but you've seen the news more recently.
Sure. Well, listen, absolutely. Will you make enhancements in buildings to protect federal workers? Are you moving security around to coincide with this movement?
Yeah, as I said, right now, the answer is I don't know. Okay. So we haven't done anything. GSA would probably be another organization that might be involved to the extent something like that happens. But for now, obviously, don't have any other direction other than what the president announces.
Understood. I mean, the answer might be that we're actually quite secure at our federal buildings here in Washington. And that's certainly acceptable. Yeah, absolutely. For those of us who live around here, we're not running through the streets like we live in Baghdad. People should know. As I mentioned, you were sworn in less than a month ago.
Yeah.
I would love to know the experience that you're having here, coming to Washington and going through this culturally. Well, let's talk about actual policy at first and what you've inherited here, because OPM is losing, I think, about a third of its workforce. As you get in the building here, do you have what you need? Are there enhancements that you need to make to enact your vision?
Yeah, certainly as I've been here for a couple weeks now, people come to me and said, hey, we may have cut too far in this area or that area. So the short answer is I don't know, but we're going through a process to go figure that out. So what I've asked everybody to do is come back to me and tell me, okay, what do you think is missing? But importantly, what are you doing in terms of prioritization? So one of the things I've observed here in DC is we're very good about adding things to the plate, and we're not very good about taking things off the plate. Interesting. And so what I've kind of told my team is, look, I'm open to the idea that maybe there are areas where we've cut too far, but I also want to make sure I understand how we're prioritizing. And the answer may be that there are things that we're just doing because we've been doing them for a long time, and we don't need to do it. So we want to understand that.
So you're taking inventory, you're taking stock
Exactly.
right now.
Yeah.
When do you expect these reports to all come back?
So we've got a near-term deadline, which is kind of in September. We have to put forward our first version of the 27 budget, believe it or not, for government. So we have a deadline that we need to turn that into, I believe, OMB. So literally in a matter of a couple of weeks here, I think we're going to have an assessment of how well are we staffed, what we focused on, and are there areas where we need to add back headcount, or are there areas that we can prioritize?
You expect to lose another 2,000 or so positions this year. Is that accurate?
No, so we started roughly about 3,100. We expect through mostly the DRP, the Deferred Resignation Program, to be probably closer to 2,000, 2,100 by the end of the year.
So that's specifically through.
That's specifically
the deferred.
Yeah.
And is that program still active?
We still have people who are on the books right now who are,
Okay,
who
sure.
are coming off.
But you can't raise your hand now and say that I'd like
In
to.
general, no, but I think that's something that is under discussion is, ought we to have
Yeah.
a program like that?
Just keep it in place all the time, a permanent deferred resignation.
Potentially, yeah. So we've done 2 rounds of it so far, but there is an ongoing discussion as to would it make sense to have something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be exactly the same things that we've done with DRP, but maybe some program like that.
So a lot of private companies do this too.
Exactly,
Of course, so
right.
You're no stranger to that. So you got here after Elon Musk left town. Did the Doge make your work easier or more difficult?
Yeah, look, I think what Doge did was they really provided a catalyst for the change that we're trying to now institutionalize. So look, you know this well, we're talking about a $7 trillion behemoth here. We're talking about 2.5 million people in the workforce, and it's very hard to kind of change culture and change the momentum there. So in my mind, a lot of what Doge did was really kind of catalyze some of the activity. And now our job at OPM and across the other agencies is to figure out how do you institutionalize this so that operational efficiency is not just a one-time thing, but it's actually part and parcel of what everybody does day to day.
A lot of people know you as the guy who ended the 5 things memos. Was that controversial? Is that, I mean, well, you will be, I'm sure, known for a bit more than that. Why did you make that decision, and why would that be considered a controversial? Some folks are continuing to use this, right? It's the mandate.
I don't think it should be controversial. Yeah, it's the mandate that we dropped. Look, what I said I would do is, when I come in, just like anything else, we should look at why we're doing things. And sometimes things have a good reason for when you do them. And other times, maybe they run their course. And in my mind, when I looked at kind of the opportunity here, I just said, look, if it's a useful tool to you as a manager, great, knock yourself out, keep using it.
Okay.
But we don't need to consume resources kind of across the government.
Was this consuming people? They're tearing their hair out each week to come up with 5 things.
It was, the honest answer, I think it was well used in some areas, not well used in others, but it was just a matter of saying, hey, look, we're going to look at things from a fresh perspective. And if we find that perhaps there's other tools that are available to do the same job, then we don't need duplicate resources.
Well, as you consider taking stock here and maybe even looking to hire, you scored a legal victory in being able to test applicants, measure applicant skills. What are these tests, and are they already in place?
Some of them exist, but there's a lot more to be done. So the history, just for your listeners to know, is we've been under a court order for about 43 years now, which effectively prohibited the use of essentially merit-based tests to determine are people qualified for the jobs for which they're trying to be hired. In the absence of those tests, what was happening was people would basically self-evaluate themselves on their hiring criteria, which I see you chuckling because it's a real issue, right? Like, people say lots of things. And in general, my view is we should trust but verify. And so now that court order has been rescinded, we now have the ability to go forward with a much more robust plan where we can use actual merit-based assessments. So that if you tell me, you're applying for a software developer job, great. Like, let me, actually try to assess those skills by giving you a coding test or something like that, which obviously the private sector has been done for a long time.
That's fascinating.
So yeah, it's
what was it? So you had a self-eval and an interview? Was that basically
you have a federal resume that sometimes goes 5-10 pages long.
Okay.
You have a self-eval, and then yes, sometimes you have an interview. Right now, what we want to do is to say, okay, the first step really should be, number one, is we've taken the federal resume down to 2 pages. My personal view is 2 is still long, but it's better than 5.
Yeah.
And then yes, like if you have a job for which we have a test that we can evaluate, whether it's your judgment or technical skills, we should have you do that first so that we understand, are you even in the running for the potential job we're hiring for?
Wait, yeah, you wouldn't think that that's revolution.
Yeah, I know. None of this is rocket science. I agree. We are not inventing new things here, but we were, because of the court order, a lot of the agencies were very worried that if they use these tests, would they find themselves in constant litigation? And so now that court order is gone, that clears the path for us to do this.
I have just about a minute left. I'm just fascinated by what this must be like for you. And I'm wondering what culturally it has been like. I know where your headquarters is over on East Street. I know what that building looks like, at least from the outside.
You should come inside.
What's it like going from the world of venture capital, from like in Andreessen to sitting on East Street trying to figure these problems out?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating experience and all very positive, actually. It's exactly what I was hoping it would be, which is
that right?
Well, look, I view this as like the managerial challenge of managerial challenges, which is in my old job, at the end of the day, you have a CEO, the CEO tells you what to do. And at some point, people actually do what the CEO says, or they quite frankly find themselves another job.
Fine.
And this is a much more of what I would call a power persuasion job. Can you get people aligned around a mission and convince them why the things we want to do from an efficiency perspective are not only good for their career, but also good for the government?
Yeah, well, that's called public service, I think.
Exactly.
Right? Really great to meet you. Thank you for coming. Let's keep the conversation going. Scott Cooper,
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. C60 is a very potent antioxidant. You can get it in extra virgin olive oil, MCT coconut oil, or avocado oil. C60 has to be in a oil because it's lipid soluble. It allows you to absorb it properly. Take it on an empty stomach. Take a teaspoon a day, every day. If you take it on an empty stomach, you get the best absorption. But it's very important to take it every day. And what you'll notice is that you're slowing down the aging process. You're soaking up those free radicals. Your energy levels are going to go up. Your immune system will perform better. Your endocrine system will perform better. Your neurons will perform better. By soaking up the free radicals at the vascular level, you're reducing the chances of oxidized LDL. And by doing that, you're reducing the chances of plaque buildup. So C60 is a very important pillar to an anti-aging protocol. It's something that I've been taking since 2016. Been taking it every day. So what I want you to do is take the C60, take a teaspoon a day. It'll also help with your neurons. It's going to soak up those free radicals, reduce the stress in the cell and the neuron. By reducing stress in the neuron, you're maintaining the myelin sheath. When you maintain the myelin sheath of a neuron, you're maintaining that electrical signal. And you're helping the mitochondrial health in your cells and your neurons. When you're soaking up those free radicals and boosting up the health of the mitochondria, your energy levels will go up. So you have more ATP. And in neurons, you need lots of ATP to create those neurotransmitters. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the C60, super important to take. You can get it in a 2-ounce, a 4-ounce, or an 8-ounce configuration. But it's very important to take it every day, a teaspoon a day. All right. Let's listen to the Hill about Mamdani.
Fucking Chris Hemsworth.
Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is attempting to boost his chances in the New York City mayoral race. His latest strategy is attacking Zohran Mamdani's rent-stabilized apartment. Now, in a lengthy post on X, which garnered tens of millions of views, Cuomo writes, "Somewhere last night in New York City, a single mother and her children slept at a homeless shelter because you, Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, are occupying her rent-controlled apartment." He adds, "You make $142,000 a year plus stipends. No matter which way you cut it, Zohran Mamdani is a rich person. You are actually very rich, yet you and your wife pay $2,300 a month as you brag for a nice apartment in Astoria. That should be housing for someone who needs it." Kept it all off by saying, "Today I am calling on you to move out immediately and give your affordable housing back to an unhoused family who need it. Leaders must show moral clarity. Time to move out."
Cuomo also announced this weekend his proposal for Zohran's law, which he says aims to keep the rich out of New York's affordable housing. Let's take a look.
Rent stabilized units, when they're vacant, should only be rented to people who need affordable housing, not people like Zohran Mamdani. You don't need to be renting rent stabilized units to wealthy people. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're abusing the system. I'm going to propose not rent that apartment by law, except to a person who actually needs affordable housing. And I'm going to call it Zohran's law because it's an abuse of the system.
Now, Mamdani has not responded to Cuomo's message for propose a law, but the attacks come days after recent polling shows Mamdani is leading Cuomo by 13 points, according to a recent Decision Desk H2 poll. As a reminder, Cuomo currently lives in an $8,200 a month Manhattan apartment, according to the Times. Additionally, Forbes estimates Cuomo is worth about $10 million, which they say is a roughly 5-fold gain in less than a decade. And if you want to do the math, CNBC estimates the income needed to be considered middle class in New York City ranges from $51,000 to $153,000. So Zoran Mamdani wasn't even in middle class consideration because he made $47,000 when he got that apartment. And, you know, there was a difference.
Guy makes 140.
Yeah, but he made 47 when he got it and he stayed there. How many times when you move somewhere and you're comfortable, would you get out of that apartment? I don't think he's like, how can I take advantage of the people? I think he found a cheap apartment, got a new job more recently and made a new salary. And so now he also said directly that he plans to move. But this is all a lot going on in the middle of a campaign.
I mean, I guess the point would be he comes from significant wealth and privilege, though. So while he maybe didn't on paper have a good income, I mean, this just speaks to the difficulty of correctly making these laws in such a way where you're only giving some benefit to people who are truly needy and not to others. Yes, again, because of his income status, he might perfectly well qualify for it at the time. But I know from, I remember my college days where bunch of students at the University of Michigan, and they had, in Michigan, we called them, I think, bridge cards, basically food stamps, because you have no income, so you can qualify for it, but they were just used to buy beer. It's an age-old problem.
They can't buy.
It's not enforceable.
You can't buy beer on, that's not how that works.
This was the state, the local, not the federal.
Got it.
Okay, problem. But that doesn't work either, because money is fungible, so you can just spend, like, whatever money you were going to spend on groceries, now you're spending with this, and you spend the money you spend on groceries on beer, so it doesn't.
But this is all
doesn't work.
For Cuomo, this is very much a distraction, right? We know last week that people were tying him to President Trump. We know that he is probably surprised and bewildered that somebody like Mamdani, who was basically nameless a year ago, has outpaced him in the polls. We know that that doesn't make him comfortable in this race. And people are saying that he had a direct conversation with President Trump. He's denying it, but even his behavior is very Trump-esque. Let me find something. I got to do a jab. Instead of like actively talking about policies that he would put in place, he's like, how can I jab Mamdani? And it's also really interesting to hear him talk about affordable housing when he's providing no solutions to provide affordable housing to what Mamdani is doing. He's not providing any relief for New Yorkers who resonate, especially in New York City, with the problem of overly expensive housing. I mean, he works specifically and has donors that are big real estate developers. And so a lot of the policies he's put in place over the years are anti keeping the rents low, right? For owners of these buildings and owners of big, massive properties in New York City.
Well, I don't support government intervention to dictate to people what they can charge for the properties they own. I think that's the difference between rent control and rent stabilization. I could be wrong. Rent control is right. It is the government saying, here's what you have to charge. And rent stabilization is probably, I'm guessing, the government subsidizing the difference between what it costs and what they're going to raise it by, so that you don't feel the effects of the raise, but that the property owner can still raise the rent. Regardless, the solution is very obvious, very easy solution. You got to build more housing, allow more housing to be built, because when there's more availability, prices.
So they go up because New York is kind of packed. If you've seen it recently, like where are they building it?
Redevelop some office buildings that people aren't using anymore because more people work from home. I'm sure it can be done. Regulation gets in the way, and that's how you fix it.
So all the times, like almost talking about Mamdani's morals, everything that he said in the read-in into this segment, you are going to allow this to fly, knowing that Cuomo morally was acting pretty bankrupt when it came down to people in those nursing homes just a few years ago, knowing that he has a lot of accusations against him that morally would be seen incorrect. And knowing
I don't have a dog in this fight. I mean, I don't like Andrew Cuomo. I would never vote for him based on.
But you love Mamdani.
I don't love Mamdani at all. I mean, I don't have anything against him personally, the way I sort of do against Cuomo, but Mamdani's socialist policies will ruin New York, obviously. So I don't want him to. I have no dog. I don't live in New York and would not vote for either of these candidates. I would probably vote for Eric Adams, honestly. I didn't like him very much either, but he's by far the least bad of the options.
Every time you see Eric Adams, he's more like in the mix in the party. He's like more like your friend and your homie than somebody who needs to be leading the state.
Not my circus, not my monkeys, but I do care about affordable housing, and the best way to have affordable housing is to allow for more housing to be built, allow for competition. I just went through this. I live in a neighborhood that right now does have a lot of availability, and my building I had to renew my lease. They tried to jack up my rent. It was outrageous. I'd never seen anything like this. I said, no, I will not pay this. This is insane. And I started looking at the units across the street, and they came back to me and said, oh, okay, never mind. And I didn't leave it. A little increase, but way less than what they prescribe. Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was like, no,
That's worth it. Yeah.
That's actually really.
So I'm encouraging you,
Stand up for yourself.
stand up for yourself, negotiate.
Okay, well, and it's also good when leadership tells people not to do stuff like that, right? I know you don't like federal involvement and I disagree wholeheartedly about the approach there. But if people are saying, okay, if the rent was $2,300, you can't make it $5,000. Like there has to be some type of limitation on how greedy people can be when you're dealing with people that are struggling with inflation and a bunch of other stuff. So if Cuomo actually wanted to provide a solution, he can lay one out and not come up with Zoran's law that tells people that they can't live in rent-controlled apartments. Like that's not the main crux of the issue with housing in New York City, that a lot of people are taking over spaces.
I don't want the government trying to prescribe what the right cost. I mean, Argentina just went through this. Javier Milei, my guy, my hero, fixing so many of that country's problems, ended rent control. I said landlords can charge whatever they want, and has dramatically increased the availability of housing in the country by just letting the market do its work. Not having the government decide. What
are the housing prices looking like now? I bet they're
because there's more availability. You don't have to worry about that problem as much, because then, well, if I can't afford this one, there's competition is what brings down prices. We should allow for more competition.
Well, that's one solution, but I'm not hearing any solutions from Cuomo's side, and that's kind of my biggest concern is that he's having a conversation with Trump, which he knows is not a winning connection for anybody who's voting democratically.
I would need to know more about what this apartment, like the size of this apartment, to evaluate whether that price sounds.
It's probably
fair
astronomically high for a one bedroom if they have that.
In Astoria, I'm not a New York expert. I visit the city more than I'd like to because I don't really like it.
It really can't be huge. I mean, I have friends.
Astoria is Queens.
Queens, yeah, and it's a pretty expensive part of Queens. Not like, you know, it's very close to Manhattan.
If that's a one bedroom apartment, that sounds cheap to me. Very cheap for that price. If it's
a studio.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe that's fair. I don't know. If it's a big apartment, then that's outrageous that they can artificially keep it that low. I don't know. I don't know how nice it is. I don't know what modern appliances it has. I don't really care either. He can take advantage of the law the way it's written, just like anyone else. That's fine.
Is your point, Ashley, that something still needs to be done here? Would it help the president to cite all of this data and not look at something 2 years old?
Potentially, and again, I don't know the data since post-COVID, pre-COVID, post-COVID, and it's something I would like to dig into, for sure, because I think it's really important information. But again, I go back to not just violent crimes. Obviously, I mean, I've had several friends that have been carjacked. Obviously, there's some people that have been killed during hijackings and carjacking. So I think that this is something that has to get under control. But again, if you don't have any consequences, if you do not punish even small crimes, then there's lawlessness in the city. So I think what he's trying to do, obviously there was a tipping point last week with the former staffer who was beat up in the streets. But I think that there are and there's also an intern for one of our members of Congress that was murdered, about a month ago. So there is serious crime here. I think what he's trying to do is also get rid of the homelessness. I mean, if you look at the mayor's ability to do that, she has very limited ability to get rid of the homeless. I mean, I was talking about this for months. Why are there so many homeless camps? And first of all, for the health of the homeless, but also for making the city safe. And her hands are tied because of some of the legislation that City Council passed.
Understood, although I will say that there actually was a pretty large encampment right in front of this building, the small park that the city did move out some time ago. As we understand with the Home Rule Act, Ashley, the president can federalize the city's police department, Metro Police here, in 48-hour increments. Retaining the power to supersede City Hall for discrete periods of time, not this open-ended thing. Do we know how this is going to work? Do you just re-up every 48 hours here? And how will that help the police to be federalized?
I think there's two questions. He could continue to do the 48 hours. I don't know how long he will do that because there's not, as you mentioned at the beginning, there's not riots in the streets right now or anything like that. But I'm assuming he'll use the National Guard to completely move out the homeless camps. I have no idea 100%, but that's what I'm assuming he's going to use. He's not going to continue doing this for 48 hours, I wouldn't think, for the next 6 months. And the police, if he is able to, because of the home rule, change the ability to prosecute some of what city council again has put in place, if he is able to overturn their ability to prosecute for some of these various smaller crimes, then I think I would think the police would welcome that. Obviously, I think everyone's talking about right now, the federal government, the city does not want to be bigfooted by the federal government, but there are things that just need to be changed and go back to how they were even 5 years ago.
Do we need to relook at the Home Rule Act? Because with some of the things the president has suggested, this Congress could repeal home rule. The president can do whatever he wants with this city, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why Washington is what Washington is. So yes,
Yeah.
but under this administration, as well as the current makeup of the House and Senate, I think that you've already seen it happen several times this year, where Congress has stripped funding for things that the government, the city council won't do in Washington, D.C.
Exactly.
I think that you'll continue to see that happening. Yeah, well, their budget, I don't think necessarily has to pass until September, from what I understand. So there is a little bit of room here, but yeah, I mean, you even look what happened with bringing the commanders back. I mean, there was so much. Again, I feel like I'm an advertisement for the mayor, but I think she really tries to bring in what she's trying to change in this city, and she needs the ability to do it. So obviously, she probably does not want federal preemption.
Yeah, it's an interesting relationship between these two, and this is going to be a big test for Muriel Bowser. Actually, it's great to have you. I thought we'd be talking about Russia and all kinds of things today. You just never know what you're going to get in this Washington, but with the help of Ashley Davis, we make our way through it. S3 Group Republican strategist. Thank you, Ashley, for the insights. We're going to assemble our panel next to take the temperature of Rick Davis.
All right, Rick Davis, the dipshit. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Boomer Boost has 68 nutrients. It's going to target multiple organ systems. It's going to help to boost up your energy levels and your metabolism, help with your cardiovascular system, help with your brain function, help with musculature. It has a very comprehensive compound profile that you can read on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This supplement is supercharged. All right, it's really important. It's the fourth pillar of my core protocol. The first pillar is cleanse max 35 or max 14 to boost up your immune system. C60 is the second pillar to soak up free radicals. The third pillar is the turmeric, the ashwagandha, and the lignans to help with the vascular health and boost up your immune system. And again, Boomer Boost helps to rev up energy levels and your metabolism. This will help you to lose weight if you want to lose weight. To lose weight with Boomer Boost, use this either for your breakfast or for your lunch and mix it with a soft food. All right? And so you don't have to worry about not having enough energy. You're going to have energy and vitality throughout the whole day, no spiking of energy. In addition, with this, it's going to help with inflammation. It's going to help to reduce that inflammation. And Boomer Boost is going to allow you to help to concentrate. It's going to get rid of that brain fog. You're going to sleep better with Boomer Boost. And when you work out cardiovascular, resistance training, stretching, and balancing exercises, you'll recover quicker. And you will build muscle. Boomer Boost also helps with controlling your A1C levels. Now, you can take Boomer Boost by itself, or you can also take it with the barley. And barley, you can take it by itself or with other supplements like Boomer Boost. The barley, there's two types, the heirloom barley and the gladiator barley. They're high density protein. You can't buy this barley at a regular store. Special type of barley. Now, it'll help to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and soak up free radicals with superoxide dismutase. Now, this barley is a powder. You mix it with soft foods, filtered water, or smoothie, or even milk. But you take it every day, and the amazing thing is that it's going to bring down inflammation. By bringing down inflammation, you're going to recover quicker when you're working out. You're going to help with joint pain because you're reducing that inflammation. By bringing down inflammation at the cerebral level, guess what? It's going to help with your neurons. By bringing down chronic inflammation, it's going to help boost up your immune system. By bringing down inflammation at the vascular level, it's going to help with your cardiovascular health. Because by bringing down inflammation at the vascular level, you're reducing plaque formation. So it's super important to be taken. And you can stack it with the Boomer Boost to get added benefit and help with your A1C levels. Now, with Gladiator barley, you get all the benefits of heirloom barley, but you also build muscle. It stacks really well with Myotrol. Remember, Myotrol helps with gene expression to build muscle. Gladiator barley is a high-density protein that helps to build muscle. But not just build muscle, it detoxifies your body. It brings down inflammation. It also soaks up free radicals with superoxide dismutase. So you stack these together and you work out. You do some resistance training, and you're going to be losing weight. You're going to be getting healthy. You're going to be having lots of energy. You're going to be detoxifying your body. You're going to be controlling those A1C levels. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Gladiator barley, the heirloom barley, and the Boomer Boost. You can take them separately, or you can stack it. You can stack the Boomer Boost with the Gladiator barley or the Boomer Boost with the heirloom barley. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. Spend $100 or more, and you get a free gift until supplies last. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get healthy. You follow my protocol, you're going to slow down the aging process, and you're going to notice that your body is improving and healing, and you're going to have more vitality and longevity. So click the link in the description of this video and all my videos to get to my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get healthy. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.